आपका स्वागत है महोदय। हमारे साथ हैं श्रीमती एल.एस. जैंक्सन, अपर सचिव महोदया, स्कूली शिक्षा एवं साक्षरता विभाग, शिक्षा मंत्रालय। मंच पर हमारे साथ उपस्थित हैं श्रीमती निधि छिब्बर जी, अध्यक्षा केंद्रीय माध्यमिक शिक्षा बोर्ड, शिक्षा मंत्रालय के उच्च अधिकारीगण, अर्चना अवस्थी मैम एंड प्राची पांडे मैम। हमारे साथ इस सभा में मौजूद हैं शिक्षा मंत्रालय के अन्य उच्च अधिकारी, CBSE के विभागाध्यक्ष, स्वायत्त संस्थानों के प्रमुख और अनेक प्रधानाचार्य जो हमारे साथ इस सभा में उपस्थित हैं, साथ ही वर्चुअल माध्यम से जुड़े हुए हैं। आप सभी का मैं स्वागत करती हूँ। कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ हमारी अध्यक्ष महोदय से कि वे मुख्य अतिथि महोदय का स्वागत करें। मेरा अनुरोध है सचिव CBSE श्री अनुराग त्रिपाठी जी से कि वे अध्यक्ष महोदय का स्वागत करें। मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ श्री संयम भारद्वाज, कंट्रोल एग्जामिनेशन CBSE से कि वे अपर निदेशक महोदय का स्वागत करें। अपर सचिव महोदया या मेरा पुनः अनुरोध है श्री संयम भारद्वाज जी से कि वे संयुक्त सचिव महोदय का स्वागत करें। मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ अध्यक्ष महोदया CBSE से कि वे सभा को संबोधित करें।
Respected Secretary, School Education and Literacy, Shri Sanjay Kumar, Additional Secretary, Srimati Jangson, all the JSs and Bureau Heads of the Department of School Education and Literacy, Directors from CBSE, and principals of CBSE schools who are present in this hall today, and those who have joined us virtually from all parts of the country and abroad. I welcome you all to this interactive session on implementation of various initiatives under the new education policy. We will kick off the interaction with a presentation which will be made by Additional Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy on the NEP initiatives undertaken under the guidance of Govt of India. Then we will listen to our secretary, who will discuss these initiatives in details and the expectations from schools where these initiatives are being implemented. As you're aware, in CBSE, we've been closely working with all of you on various aspects of NEP over the past 3 years. And we thought it will be a good idea to listen to some of the principals about the experiences they've had in introducing some of the novel concepts of NEP, the challenges they have faced, and the opportunities afforded to them in the process, and suggestions to leverage these initiatives in creating a wholesome learning environment. Their experience sharing session will be followed by an open house, an opportunity for all of you to discuss various aspects of today's topics on which you want some clarity or which you want to highlight. All those who have joined virtually may also send their queries or observations through the chat box, and time permitting, we'll try to respond to everyone. Secretary Sir, CBSE is a unique organization in which the board is the core, a small but central part of the educational ecosystem in a predominantly private sector. The larger superstructure of this ecosystem are the schools affiliated to the board, presently 28,000 plus in India and abroad. They are the board's eyes and ears who provide us much needed inputs on various measures to enrich and facilitate the education ecosystem, as they are the ones who are directly in touch with our most important stakeholders, the students and their parents. Not only Do they keep us abreast with the aspirations of the students, the need for changes in pedagogical styles, training inputs, teaching learning material, but also actively work with the board in creation of new teaching learning material, training modules, student enrichment activities, etc., which facilitate in transforming of the education ecosystem in response to the changing demands of socioeconomic systems in the country and abroad. Besides, it goes without saying that the efficient conduct of board examinations throughout the country and abroad is in no small measure to the smooth coordination and cooperation of the schools with the board. This ethos of coordination and cooperation is not only reflected in the relationship between the school and the boards, but also between the schools themselves at the regional levels in the form of Sahodaya complexes and hubs of learning. Sahodaya movement in particular is a unique feature rarely seen anywhere else, where schools located in geographical proximity form an informal association of their own to share best practices, resources, and to generally collaborate with each other in areas of mutual interest. CBSE Sahodaya complexes are very vibrant associations and one of the major instrumentalities for the board to reach out to individual schools and to gather information on the impact of the new initiatives we introduce in our schools. They have been playing an important role in facilitating the implementation of many new initiatives under the NEP. Sir, at this point, I would like to submit before you that CBSE schools have been pioneers in respect of a number of practices and techniques which have been advocated by NEP, although they may not have identified with the nomenclature used in NEP. For instance, project-based assessment is already a well-established practice in CBSE schools. Art integration is very much practiced in our schools. We saw the results of art integrated learning at the Sahodaya conference held in Vadodara last year, where school children put up art exhibitions on art integrated learning systems. The Varli paintings of Maharashtra, for instance, were being used to explain concepts of arithmetic and geometry. The easy confidence of students explaining how art concepts are used to understand a subject like math reflected on the hard work put in by their teachers in creating novel teaching learning material and lesson plans. Creation of projects which offer feasible and scalable solutions to real-life problems was the hallmark of the CBSE National Science Exhibition held earlier this year. From identification of problem statements, conceptualizing solutions, and executing the project in a practical manner, it was a testament to the out-of-box thinking and determination of our students to create socially relevant products and systems. I, in fact, interacted, among others, with a team of 2 who had created a wheelchair for the differently abled, which could be navigated with the help of movement of the pupils of the eye of the user. The idea to create it, they said, came from a friend in the neighborhood who was differently abled and unable to attend school owing to motor disability. The product they created was a fruit of their learning and knowledge, the support of their teachers, and their satisfaction at having created an aid for a friend in need was extremely gratifying. Under our skill education initiatives, schools are using AI to create socially useful and commercially viable apps which rival any app in the market. I came across one where a student had developed an app to detect early warning signs of uterine cancer in women. And the app also guided you to the nearest hospital if you needed to go to a hospital. There are many more instances like this, sir, but too numerous to narrate here in a short time. But I'll wrap up by narrating another example of what in NEP parlance can be called sports integrated learning. Some students in a school found it difficult to learn the Vedic names of rivers in India, Shatadru for Satluj and Vipasha for Byas. So the principal used their enthusiasm for football to make them learn the same. A match was organized where players were barred from calling to each other by their names or their jersey numbers, but had to call out the names of rivers. Each of them had been allotted the name of a river. So I'm sure must have been a very, very interesting match and a very joyful way of learning. So what I am trying to say is that teachers and principals everywhere are using innovative methods to impart learning to their students in an interesting, joyful, and stress-free environment. And what is needed is to share these practices and techniques to adopt and adapt them and try to universalize them. I'm sure during today's interaction, we'll hear of many more such initiatives which all of you are taking in your schools and creating a conducive learning environment for the students to realize the goal of NEP, that is, and I quote, to produce engaged, productive, and contributing citizens for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged in our Constitution. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
धन्यवाद मैम। सीबीएसई स्कूल्स द्वारा किए जा रहे नवाचारों पर प्रकाश डालने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारे समक्ष मौजूद हैं प्राची पांडे जी, संयुक्त सचिव शिक्षा मंत्रालय। मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ श्री अंतरिक्ष जौहरी, निदेशक आईटी से, कि वो मैडम का स्वागत करें। कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ अपर सचिव महोदया श्रीमती एल.एस. टैंगसन से कि वो प्रेजेंटेशन के साथ मुख्य बिंदुओं पर प्रकाश डालें।
Thank you. Namaskar. Good morning to everyone. Wow, we sound almost like a classroom. Respected Secretary Sri Sanjay Kumar Sir, Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Chairperson, Central Board of Secondary Education, Ms. Nidhi Chibber, my colleagues on the dais, Ms. Archana Avasthi, Joint Secretary, Ms. Prachi Pandey, Joint Secretary, Anurag Tripathi, Secretary CBSE, my colleagues in the hall, Mr. Vipin Kumar, Amarpreet Dugal, Mr. Venkat Hegde, Ms. Rija. We are delighted to meet all you principals of the CBSE here for the first time together in person and some in virtual mode. It is actually a very, a promising session for us, because getting to interact with the leaders of the school education on ground and getting to know what is happening on ground is something we are really looking forward to. Having said that, I would like to just make a presentation on where we stand. We have all no doubt heard about, and we are already practicing, the National Education Policy 2020. 29 July 2020, India came up with the National Education Policy. Yes. So here, today we just want, I'm sure no doubt all of you are already implementing it, but there are still some focus areas where we need to look at and put in more efforts. So we just want to take you again through the NEP 2020 and certain focus areas. You all would surely agree that the 5 pillars of the National Education Policy are access, equity, affordability, accountability, and most importantly, quality. CBSE schools are pace setters for the entire school network, school systems in the country and even abroad. But even within this network, within this system, there are a lot of disparities, There are some schools which are way ahead in the forms of pedagogy, in the forms of the outcomes, and there are schools which still need some hand-holding support. So what we look forward is that within the CBSE, there is a commonality, basic common platforms can be developed, and this can be achieved through focusing on certain areas. So what we would like to highlight today are these focus areas. First is the shift to competency-focused teaching, learning, and assessment. I know that more than many other school systems in the country, this competency-based, learning outcome-based, CBSE schools have been practicing, but we need to move further ahead in this direction. Transforming assessments. After all, what we are going to assess or how we assess, actually, that is how we teach and learn. So we really need to look at the assessment systems again and see what improvements we can make. Third is tracking student progress across the school years. We also have the holistic progress card that's being designed. I will come to all of these in greater detail. And of course, these are all teacher and student oriented, but very importantly, a standard setting for the school ecosystem itself. In pedagogy, the NEP talks about no hard separation between curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular. I do know that now these terms are not being used as separate activities, separate definitions, terminologies anymore, because all are curricular. But still, there may be some inadvertently, we keep going back to this area of extracurricular versus curricular. So the one of the core themes of the NEP is this no hard separation. Everything is curricular. Actually, it takes us back to what is curriculum. Curriculum is this entire set of activities that we do within the school framework, within the school, the institutional framework. So we can't have something like extra, it's not outside the school system. So it's all curricular. Then focus on critical thinking, discussion, collaboration, analytical thinking. These are in the teaching learning methods, these have to be brought in along with experiential learning, inquiry and discovery based teaching learning methods. Chairperson just mentioned about arts and sports integrated learning, teaching learning, and this indeed is reflected, very emphasized in the NEP, apart from storytelling and ICT integrated pedagogy. Bagless days, I think a lot of the schools are already practicing this. Bagless days have several interpretations. Now, it is just as simple as coming to school without books to having a completely non-classroom based activity designed, visit, exposure to places. And as I said in the NEP, even the vocational education exposure to middle school children through these backless days. There are very many ways to apply this, but these are, we can say broadly, the focus areas of pedagogy. So we move to focus on learning outcomes. Everything, in fact, will revolve around the learning outcomes. So framework that is coming up, the National Curricular Framework also will be talking about this. You've already gone through the draft. So learning outcomes, multidisciplinary, subject integration, competency-focused education, which takes us away from the rote learning. It's not that all rote learning is to be done away with, but more of thought-based, analytical-based, competency, application-based focus will be brought in. Development of a scientific temper and multilingual teaching. You would be aware that the NEP talks about the importance of teaching in the mother tongue to up to class 5 at least, and if possible to higher classes also. But even as far as possible, to have teachers fluent in or being able proficient in different languages, to be able to connect with the student in his or her mother tongue or home language. We come to assessments. So one is the continuous tracking of learning outcomes of each child, right? So you can have from class-based data, simple record that's maintained, to a more hyper database, a big database on an IT platform. I think some schools are also using that. And even move on to a system of personalized and analytical learning, assessment based. But the idea is to concentrate on the core concepts, the higher order and foundational skills, because much of the time we have realized in many exams, and especially in our NAS also, that a lot of our focus, our approach has been on rote based learning or simply knowledge gathering, knowledge ingestion. We should be able to empower our students to go on a more thinking and analytical based learning, so that and so therefore our assessment also has to be designed that way. I'm happy that CBSE is already on this path. Every year 10% more of such type of questions are being added to the board exams, but this could be done within the in the it should be in fact practiced in all the classes throughout, because we need to prepare and reorient our system of assessment. To this extent, the ministry has also come up with the parak. This is a body for bringing in an equivalence platform between all the boards, so that there is a standardized way of a commonality in our approach to assessments. So CBSE would be closely involved with that. I'm happy to share. And then, of course, board exams, they have always been high stakes, but we need to have some more flexibility and assessment, as I mentioned, with on core concepts and competencies. Within assessments, we also need to look at the key stage assessments. NEP talks about this, that in classes 3, 5, and 8, we can have this, the key stage. These are the, we would consider the key stage. We could have through this an assessment of the core concepts, testing on the achievements of the essential learning outcomes. And this can be used for development purpose in the school itself, so that it's like I'll be coming to like the SAFL, which is a diagnostic tool for where we stand. But similarly, these key stage assessments would be helpful. So far, we've been having this no detention policy and been going on with that. So there's a rethink on this, and key stage assessments would be. Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. We will be sharing this presentation with you just after this. So if you would like, you could take notes or take photos, but we would be sharing this. I've just been asked to say this. Towards this end, so we need a lot of capacity building, and CBSE has been doing this already. You are part of this, the MOOC on FLN and on conducive learning environment. There's also a portal, the Prashikshan Triveni, for registering yourself, tracking and feedback for the teachers and for the people who are with you in your schools for their training and capacity building. I'm also happy to say that as one of the interventions, as one of the platforms for increasing, say, digital education, the TV channels, 200 TV channels will soon be launched by the Ministry of Education, exclusively dedicated for education. And CBSE will also be getting one of the TV channels for broadcasting their content. You all have already contributed so much to Diksha, which is our flagship digital platform. I want to convey my thanks and appreciation. And I'm sure in this TV channel also, there will be a way to reach to larger audiences. And then, given the scheme of things, we would be looking a lot more at blended learning. And digital education is not just only internet based or this online. It will be also on TV, radio, and various other developing technology areas. So CBSE with TV channel, you would be having subject specific and generic videos, and it will be also for students and parents. Again, I would like to just reiterate here that the NEP talks a lot about the community, the peers, parents' involvement in the whole education. So it is not just limited to only the four walls of the school. We all, as a community, all the stakeholders will be needing to work together. So we look forward to this, which will be coming soon by in another, I think, 2 months, by July, hopefully. Then we come to another thing. We've been talking about students and schools and the teachers and learners here. I'm sorry, not about schools, but this is something which brings us to the school quality assessment and assurance framework, SQAF, which has been developed by the CBSE authorities. The NEP para 8.1 talks about the State School Standard Authority. So the Government of India, Ministry of Education, has notified CBSE as standard setting authority for all the schools under CBSE, which include the private schools, KVs, JNVs, and different ministries, army schools, the railway schools, and the EMRS schools, and all such. And they have developed this framework, which is the SQAF. And this is a set of standards and best practices that schools can aspire to and work towards. Like I said, schools may be at different levels, and these would be, a way to just train back the focus of the schools so that they can move forward towards an ideal in the long run. Here, the SQAF essentially I have explained this. So you would have heard about the PM Shri schools. So SQAF has been realigned. A similar kind of quality assessment and assurance framework has been developed. So here in SQAF, the details are there in the guideline, and CBSE has or would be also having a separate session with you all on this, a detailed one on how to go about it. But in short, it looks at, it gives weightage to certain domains. So curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment get 40%, infrastructure 10%, human resources 10%, inclusive practices 10%, management and governance 10%, leadership 10%, and beneficiary satisfaction 10%. So why SQAF? This will help the schools to keep a trajectory of development, watch on it, and engage continuously in a form of review. It's a sort of an introspection for the school, and they can plan improvement projects for growth, and they can be in touch and reassure the stakeholders about the school's intentions on how to develop the school system, the children there, the teachers' capacity, and how to ultimately bring out students who are going to be leaders and productive members of the society. In all, we're talking about a collaboration, giving a room for innovation for schools, and also accountability, because we are talking about self-disclosure, information in disclosure form. There's a portal, a digital portal, which CBSE has created for SQAF, And this is even linked with the Saras portal. And currently now it is all schools have been encouraged to work on this SQUAF. I hope that the schools are taking this forward. And now it is from this session, I think it is being linked to the affiliation process also for the schools, new schools who want to take CBSE affiliation, and for those which will be coming for extension and for renewal. So this is not going to be, of course, a mandatory thing for the affiliation, but it will. We just want to encourage the schools to look into themselves and to go towards this for self review and self disclosure. I have mentioned this about the affiliation. So, all in all, SQUAF would bring in a sense of responsibility, transparency, collaboration, and accountability. It would be also a good thing for the community, for the school to know, because when interested parents would be seeking admissions for their wards or for any other work that the school can be involved in, to know where you stand through the SQUAF would be a great enabler even for the school. When I talked about assessments, I had mentioned about the need for transforming assessment. You would have already taken part in the NAS, National Achievement Survey. Now, SAFL is a little different from that. SAFL is a tool, a diagnostic tool to know where the children stand there. It's a structured assessment for analyzing learning, an acronym. And this looks at the key stage assessments. We talked about that in a few slides earlier. And this has been launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2021 on the first anniversary of the National Education Policy. So SAFL tests the core concepts through application-based assessment. The idea is to move away from rote learning. And it is for all schools, government, private, all within the CBSE. The student level data is anonymized so as to make it low stake, unlike the board exams. And this is not for individual improvements, but to know as a whole which class in a particular school, which section stands at what level, and what kind of remedial, what kind of supportive action, affirmative action is required to bring that up to the standards. So a pilot has been conducted by CBSE in nearly 2,000 schools successfully, and it is likely to be rolled out in this coming year. So we would request that the schools be geared up for that. And Ministry of Education would be very keen to know the outcome of this, because that will show the way ahead for all the remaining schools in the country also on this key stage assessment in this diagnostic tool that that is known as SAFL. So here you have, these are the subject. There is no content or specific curriculum for SAFL. It's all competency based at certain level, age appropriate, stage appropriate. And just to give an idea about how it is different from NAS and the annual school exam, as far as assessment coverage is concerned, the NAS is sample based. It's not all census. It's not every child. Whereas school exams and board exams and SAFL are census based. The NAS is held once in 2 years, and then board exams, SAFL, as you know, it'll be board exams every year and SAFL every year. The NAS provides this aggregated data, district and state-wise, and national performance can be gauged from that. Board exams give you a certificate that you have completed your schooling, and SAFL gives a diagnostic data on how you can make the corrective steps. And out of all these, board exams, as we all know, are high stakes, and the NAS and SAFL being anonymized, they are low stakes. Next, I would like to also mention about the holistic progress card. This is in the making. Some of the schools of CBSE, a pilot run has been conducted. Some of you here may have been part of it. But this is also a very interesting thing. Many schools may be already practicing it, but when we speak from this ministry's platform, it is something that we hope and we intend to take to every school in the country, to every child. And this will, of course, it is not going to be limited to only a child's academic progress, but across all domains, cognitive and socio-emotional, and taking in feedback from the peers, from the parents, and not just within the school. So this will integrate how a child is viewed, how a child's learning or how a child's performance in school is viewed. And it will, we are very hopeful that it will lead to looking at a student in a very holistic way, and do away with this system of teachers favorites and those who always raise their hands in class and answer every question. A child may be different and so good in so many other ways. So holistic progress card will take care of this and bring us to a different perspective totally of the child, a more holistic one. National Curriculum Framework for Foundation Stage, you must have heard about. Curriculum tells us what to teach, when to teach, to whom to teach, how to teach this through using what material, and finally, and who will teach, the teachers, and how we assess. So NCF Foundation Stage, as you would have heard, has been developed, and this has been as a follow-up to the NEP. This has been launched already in October last year. Now we are looking forward very much to the CBSE schools to implement this. The framework, the curricular and pedagogical structure of the NEP talks about this new 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So in the cases of schools, CBSE schools, which have not yet introduced, which are having starting from class 1 and not yet introduced the preschool section, the foundational stage, the 5 years, first 5 years, 3 years of foundational plus of preschool plus class 1 and 2. We would encourage that you begin this. In the NCF FS is a very interesting document, lots of illustrations, and teaches us how and how to prepare this our study material. The Jadui Ka Pitara has been developed that contains a lot of interesting tools and story books and toys, things like that, which can engage the interest of children. And I hope that all of the schools will be taking a close look at this, and CBSE will be implementing this. They have issued a circular, and I would encourage all of you. Just for the data thing, I would like to mention that data shows that out of around 28,000 CBSE schools, 11% of the schools, 3,306, only have the preschool section. I think a lot of the preschool area is being taken up by standalone private play schools, which are largely not regulated. So it might be worth thinking if you could bring this within your school system and prepare the children right from the preschool stage. Studies have shown that if you catch them at that age, it makes a huge difference to their cognitive and their socio-emotional, the physical development and such. So especially all the schools which start from class 1, I would really encourage this. There are about 20,780 schools which start from class 1. And out of that, and against that, only 3,300 have the preschool. CBSE has been conducting a lot of training programs on the NCF Foundation stage, and I hope that you would be availing of that. We also have the national curriculum for school education that's been drafted. The draft is there in the public domain. I do hope that you all would have taken a look at it. It's a huge document, 600 pages plus, but I hope that you would take the time, because you are at the heart and the core of all education system, and we really would value your feedback. Skill education is another area which we would like to emphasize from the NEP. It's heartening to know that CBSE has introduced the skill modules, skill subjects at middle school, secondary, and senior secondary. A huge number of subjects are there. And let's look at this in the middle school. I found it so interesting. They have things like food preservation, things you should know about keeping medicines at home, you know, herbal heritage, making of a graphic novel, marketing, commercial applications, digital citizenship, pottery, khadi. These things cutting across, from craft related to AI and technology. I wish that all the schools avail of this and expose your children to these. When the board is offering these so many interesting skill modules, this is each to 12 to 5 hours duration, which you can incorporate within your academic, or, as beyond that also. So I would really request that you look at this. Secondary level 2, we have 22 subjects. This is the kind of choices, IT, AI, physical activity trainer, tourism, healthcare. These seem to be very popular. But then again, here I see that the percentage of schools in secondary level, out of 28,000 schools, approximately 21,000 schools are offering vocational education. Similarly, in senior secondary level, we have 43 skills subjects. But here, the number of schools offering skills subjects are only 11,000. I am sure that schools can take this forward. Skill education is really becoming a great focus area in the whole, not only in education, not only in the labor workforce, but in the economy of the country. So I would I would request that the schools take forward skill education and take advantage of this this beautiful bouquet of subjects that the board has laid out. There is a lot of support for the schools for the capacity building, teacher training, awareness programs, exposure visits. These have been conducted. I congratulate the schools who have been a part of this and would urge the other schools to also come forward. There's even a tie-up with the industry, especially related to IT. These kind of programs have been conducted, but as you can see, the participants are only in a few thousands. So this is somewhere we really need to look. And just for your information, there's a Chaksh portal where the schools can log in and then they can take up these skill education subjects and the various capacity development programs. I'm just showing this because I know many of you would already be doing it, but there may be many CBSE has told that may not be familiar with it. So just to emphasize on this, because NEP has focuses on the skill education. Just a couple of things more. One is, again, the Atal Tinkering Labs. The Atal Innovation Mission under Niti Aayog has been conducting this, the program has been implementing the ATL, and in this schools are given some finance to set up labs. And what are they? They are, the schools are given equipment for robotics kits, electronic kits, tools for developing these 3D printer kits. And these are designed to be learning spaces for innovation, for carrying out projects, and a lot of workshops and training, so that even now students can look forward to startups, to have their ideas and their experiments turn into some and innovations turn into some kind of startup. So these are the benefits. I just want to highlight that it creates a lot of. We talk about innovation, focusing on creativity, on scientific thinking, and collaboration. So these kind of things, Atal Tinkering Labs would be the ideal environment for bringing in. And though our Atal Innovation Mission is providing this, what we want to suggest is that maybe the schools can start this on your own. Many schools are blessed with a good position of funds and finances, and all it takes is 10 lakhs to set up this. And Niti Aayog has agreed to give us a template for setting up the Atal Tinkering Labs in the schools, if you would like to, and they would also give hand-holding support. And schools can also, of course, collaborate with industries and other sources to get additional support. So this would be a great thing if we could, in each and every school, ideally in CBSE, we just, in these 28,000 plus schools, we could have the tinkering lab, Atal Tinkering Lab, or Tinkering Lab, as you would like to call it. This would be a great vision for us. CBSE has taken up these various activities in collaboration with Niti Aayog. Then I have one other matter. This is the RT Act Section 12(1)(c), where schools are required to provide 25% of their seats at entry level for children from social and economic disadvantaged sections. A good number of schools are already practicing this, but I think there's a lot more that could be done. This is it's a form of community involvement, giving back to society, a lot that we have gained from society, and giving the underprivileged child an opportunity to have an equitable education and to rise in his or her life and career path. So we would like that schools can take a look at this and see where you could come in, that in case you have not implemented it, it is required under the RT Act. Then last slide, this is a few points. Soil health card, the Honorable Prime Minister had announced that we would be going in for soil health testing in a huge way all over the country. And in this, we have requested that students can come forward, students and teachers, and those who are in science, and the school labs can be used for testing soil. There's such a lack of information about our own country and the kind of environment, the ecology that we are in. And this would be a great one of the project-based things which could be implemented. There's a great scope out there. So we would like to let you know more about this for those interested. And then CBSE schools can also help in identifying the out-of-school children and bringing them into mainstream. We also would very much be happy if CBSE schools could take up this twinning or mentorship of the schools, one or two schools, 2 or 3 schools around them, and share your best practices. This will be also a way of community participation of the CBSE schools. Everybody looks up to your schools as leaders in the education system, but there may be a lot of interesting things that even the CBSE schools could get to learn from the local schools around them. Now, a third point is about mental health. There's a lot we could discuss on this, but I just want to only flag this today, that how vital this issue is in these times. And I hope that counselors are being provided. And not only that, teachers are being sensitized. We have in ministry this concept that teachers can be the first level counselors, like a first aid kind of. Then of course, after that, you have the trained practitioners, and then, of course, the doctors. But teachers and counselors and the school system really needs to support them. Sometimes we get some feedback that counselors are like not made very much part of the school system, and often counselors and career guidance counselors are often confused, and I think there can't be no misunderstanding about this when we are talking about mental health and wellness in the school children. And I would seek all of the school heads to kindly give particular attention to this for everyone. And also here, not just the students, many teachers also would be requiring this kind of mental wellness this thing. So we hope from ministry we will be taking this forward too. CBSE is also carrying out a lot of capacity building in this. Then last but not the least, very important, accessibility. We have the Accessible India campaign, and under Samagra Shiksha, our flagship program, also we have this the accessibility compliance guidelines also have been issued. I think we could share that with the CBSE schools too. We have shared with the states. So we, in short, would like to request that all the schools adhere to this accessibility compliance code, and that we make a slight, if not more, but at least a slight difference to the life of our children with special needs. So with this, I've taken a lot of time, but I've tried to touch upon all the important major focus areas of the national education policy and the ministry's position on this and how we could go forward. Thank you so much for a patient hearing.
सवाल के लिए मुख्य बिंदुओं पर प्रकाश डालने के लिए मैडम आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ संयुक्त सचिव महोदय से कि वो प्रेजेंटेशन को आगे बढ़ाएं।
Respected secretaries, sir, additional secretary Sweetie Chanson, chairperson CBSE Nidhi Chibbar, all my colleagues at the department, and respected all principals of CBSE across the country. So I would take a little time to brief you about the G20 activities that we are carrying out at the department. As you all know, it is a very proud year of G20 presidency for India, along with the Amrit Kal period that is going on. The Department of School Education and Literacy is very happy that 3 of the 4 themes in the education working group are connected to the school education. So this education working group is one of the verticals of many other verticals in which discussions are being carried out with the G20 countries and invited countries on various issues of international interest. 3 earlier meetings have already been held about on the G20 Education Working Group, which were in Chennai, Amritsar, and Bhubaneswar. And the subjects that we have already discussed there relate to digital initiatives in school education and higher education, then research and innovation, which was done in Amritsar, and future of work, which relates to skill education at Bhubaneswar. Now, the 4th meeting is being held at Pune between 19th to 22nd June, and which will be culminating in the G20 Education Ministers meet on 22nd June. So the theme of this 4th working group is on ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning. So like I said, even digital initiatives and future of work in terms of vocational skills in education is related to school education department. But the foundational literacy and numeracy is totally belonging to us. So it is what is needed to be discussed amongst you and you as teachers and principals, and we as the department as guiding the policy. So this is a unique opportunity to mull on these issues and actually understand the learning importance of foundational literacy in the whole vertical of education, which has also been emphasized by the 5+3+3+4 structure in the NEP, where the first 5 years are 3 years preschool and the first and the second standard. So we have thought of having a national conference on 17th and 18th June at Pune, and the themes will be regarding the role of multilingualism at the level of foundational learning, and the second one would be development of teachers' capacity and training in terms of digital technology and others, especially for foundational learning, because the pedagogy for that age would be different. This also coincides with the year in which the NCFFS has been launched, as the additional secretary just discussed with you. So all things combined, it is a very exciting time for this particular initial 5 years of schooling. So then we are also having an international seminar in which the G20 delegates will also be participating, and experts, and will be talking on foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning. And there will be one exhibition for 6 days again at Pune, at Savitribai Phule University, where many types of digital initiatives and best practices that have been carried out in foundational learning will be displayed. So starting today, a number of Jan Bhagidari events have been planned for 15 days so as to generate interest and also communicating the importance of education in these 5 years to the community, to the parents, to the stakeholders. It is the first time that it has been integrated in the whole formal education. Till now, the period prior to class 1 was at the Anganwadis and with the private and unregulated sector. So it is a time that we also realize the importance of how to go about it, as that lays the basis for lifelong learning for students. So the activities that are being planned are at school level, at district level, and at the state level. So school level is, it will be done at every school in the country. The district level activities will be led by Kendriya Vidyalaya and JNVs. However, it will be done with involvement of all kinds of schools, government, aided, private, and all. And the state level conference, one in each state, will be held between this period, and it will be led by CBSE. So the theme is again foundational learning. Then there is digital initiatives in school can also be taken up, because it is also a part of the education working group, the NEP and the G20 presidency. The participants can be, this is just an indicative list, and you may go creative on it, on who all participants should be there. But schools, the CSOs working in this field, students, teachers, the management committees, the community, prominent people working in this field. And for this, a detailed guideline has also been issued by CBSE yesterday, which details all the activities on what all could be done, how to do it, and when to do it. Google Tracker will also be shared with you, in which you can give daily updates about the activities undertaken. The nodal officer has been nominated by CBSE for this, for coordination of state level events and the school level events. And 2 media hashtags will also be shared with you. Hashtag G20 Edu for all and hashtag G20 Jan Bhagidari. So for any of your social media tweets, Facebook or anything, the same hashtags can be used. Now this is the daily activity format. We will be sharing the presentation with you, so we need not go into each one of them. But this is how they are to be tabulated, so that we have a uniformity in reporting. Media coverage as far as possible should be given, and for that also there is this template which can be filled up and given for maybe paper clippings, or you can give a radio, you can coordinate with the radio transmissions or the local TVs or whatever. It is up to your imagination and creativity. So that's it. Let's do it. Thank you.
G20 की गतिविधियों के बारे में विस्तार से बताने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महोदय। अब मैं विनम्र निवेदन करती हूँ हमारे मुख्य अतिथि महोदय श्री संजय कुमार जी से कि वे सभा को संबोधित करके हम सबका मार्गदर्शन करें। सर प्लीज।
Thank you. Chairperson CBSE, Srimati Nidhi Chibberji. Additional Secretary in Department of School Education and Literacy, Srimati Lamchang Hoy Sweetie Changson. Joint Secretary Srimati Archana Avasti. Joint Secretary Srimati Prachi Pandey. Secretary CBSE Shri Anurag Tripathi. My colleague Shri Bipin Kumar, Joint Secretary. Dr. Amarpreet Duggal, Joint Secretary in the Ministry. Shrija, Economic Advisor with us. Shri Venkat Hegde, DDG Stats. Our colleagues from CBSE, Department of School Education and Literacy, and the finest principals from different CBSE schools who have joined us, some physically, but primarily most of us have joined us on a virtual mode. I take this opportunity to pay compliments to you and welcome you to this conversation. At the outset, I must thank our Additional Secretary and Joint Secretary Archana for having made a very comprehensive presentation. So I don't think so on those accounts I have anything to say. So let me digress and do a little bit of random talking to you all. So just as I walked in the hall, I saw the gender mix in this hall. But then I also felt very pleasant because the dais also reflects the same. So more power to women. And okay, so more power to women. And I also hope that this was going to translate into bringing a better gender parity index in the country. And I think this is required. You know, it's been a long journey for the CBSE. And I was talking to the chairperson and she tells me that the institution was set up in 1929. So it's almost been 100 years journey. And in 100 years of journey, CBSE has come a very long way. There are 28,000 plus schools in the country and almost 20 million children who are part of this 28,000 schools. But if you look at it in the larger perspective, the entire school education system in the country, we have 14.8 lakh schools in the country. So out of 14.8 lakhs, you are 28,000. And out of this 28,000, I think about 3,500 would be government schools. The rest are all in the private sector. But in terms of numbers of children, you have a disproportionately large number. So we have 260 million children in K-12 system in the country. Out of that, you have 20 million. We exist at several levels. So there are schools which are extremely good, and you represent that part of the segment. But there are also schools where a lot needs to be done. And for us who are in the ministry, the challenge is that how do I bring in a certain basic minimum of proficiency and standards in all the schools in the country? You can always have something better than that. But the basic minimum should be good enough for everyone. And that's the challenge in India. How do you do that? And we would welcome your suggestions because we are all part of a larger system and you are our most prominent stakeholders. You know, there's a bit of CBSE in me also because I also did my class 12 from CBSE. Let me tell you a story. I was a graduate student in the US, and I was one day in the mall. This was made in the 1980s. And I saw a young American mother who had a 2-year-old child in her lap. And it was a Baskin and Robbins ice cream parlor. There were about 30 to 40 odd flavors in front of the young boy. She read out each and every flavor to the boy, explained the ingredients which had gone into the ice cream. And at the end of the day, she asked him to make a choice. I was watching her and I was thinking what a fruitless exercise it is. The boy, whatever the color of the ice cream, which may have caught the fancy of the boy, he pointed his finger at that, and that flavor was given to him. Much later, I think very differently about it. To be able to offer information and knowledge to a boy or everyone, and enable that person to make an informed choice. And once the person makes that informed choice, we also respect it. And I guess to a very large extent, this is the basic feeling which is part of education. That when children come to our school, we give them a certain basic information and let that child absorb it with his own capacity. And different children have different capacities. And enable them to make informed choices in life so as to move as per his or her capability and desire and aptitude. Are we doing that? That remains, we all need to introspect. And if you're doing it, fine. If you think we need to do it better, you need to think about it and tell us how to do it. But then this we must do. Look at the supply and demand in the country, which creates all kinds of distortions in our education system. Everyone wants to become an engineer. The other stream is medical. But the world is becoming much larger than that, I'm saying. When I did class 12th in 1982, there were very limited choices in front of us. Either you became an engineer, you became a doctor, or you went and did a BSc, like me. I went and did a BSc honors in physics. But today, the whole world has changed. And look at the kind of choices which is available before us. And we must apprise our students for that. And what best than to have a national education policy 2020? I'm sure all of you have gone through it. It's one of the finest documents which we have created in the government. I can say that without any hesitation. It also is the DNA of the future Indian society. It encapsulates the kind of a growth our society is going to have. But then the challenge is always in the implementation. And we must implement it well, because I think in India we may have all kinds of luxury, but we do not have the luxury of time. We need to get it right the very first time, and we need to get it done in the right manner as quickly as possible. You can do it, and you are the person who is going to implement it. The National Education Policy has given us an opportunity to create a national curriculum framework. We have already done it for the foundational studies. It was released on 20th of October last year. We brought out the learning teaching material on 20th of February 2023. But the larger part is that out of the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, we have brought out the foundational study 151. But 3 plus 3 plus 4, the pre-draft has been uploaded on the department's website. We also requested everyone to have a look at it, come back to us with suggestions. If you have not done it, please go back and have a look at the curriculum framework and see what all it entails. And I guess when the Additional Secretary was making that presentation, she encapsulated everything which is part of the National Education Policy. So we're going to look at holistic education, not making any difference between different streams, arts, sports, vocational education, which is extremely important, has been integrated. and it's all part of the larger curriculum. We've come out with a national credit rating framework. And I think CBSE should also someday organize a workshop for its principal to bring everyone on board and tell them as to what the national credit rating framework is. Basically, the idea is that if you go and take a few courses in vocational education and in academic skills, these things are not different. They are just about the same. I often feel that the moment you say vocational education, people feel that it is being offered as a second choice. And it is for people who are not very bright or perhaps who are not being able to do well in academics. This is the myth which needs to be broken. And how do I bring everything on the same platform is a challenge for us, more so when it emanates from the culture of the country. So there is a very strong cultural prohibition which says that don't work with hands. If you look at the presentation which was made by the additional secretary and the vocational education choices which are being made available by CBSE, majority of them are taking IT and artificial intelligence, because that is, quote unquote, the desirable thing to do, and the rest are not getting the kind of traction which it should. Sometime back, I was in the last third education working group was in Bhubaneswar, and we were there, and the High Commissioner from Singapore to India, he was on the stage and he was saying that once he was talking to the legendary Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. And the Prime Minister said that we must ensure three things. A, everyone should go to school. So everyone should have education. B, everyone should have a job. And the job must pay you sufficient so you can hold your social esteem together. And I thought this is beautiful summation of the kind of thing which we all need to do. And if you are able to do that, we'll be able to create a much more equitable and inclusive society, which we need to do. And I shall urge, and I think there's a disproportionate weight on the shoulders of each and everyone who is sitting in front of me or who have joined us through the YouTube streaming. We are the more privileged part of this country. We've had better opportunities, but then it also gives us a greater opportunity to be able to engage with the local society of which we are a part and give back to that extent. And once we start doing it, I think things will become a lot better. These are very, very exciting times. Look at the way technology is shaping us. And with artificial general intelligence, which is being talked about, I think there are a lot of people who are saying that, do I need a teacher in future? Do I need somebody to teach me if I can sit in front of a machine and the machine is capable to direct me to do the kind of things I'm doing? Look at the kind of pressure which coaching has brought into our society. Often we don't talk about it, but I guess we need to talk about it and engage with ourselves. Is quota the model for the country? I don't know. If quota is the model for the country, then what happens to joyful learning? Where is the time to be able to absorb the different good things which are coming to us? We are spending most of our time in classrooms. We come to school, and it is having a great effect on our secondary schools. And you would be much better aware than me. Children are not coming to school. They are joining dummy schools where attendance requirement is taken care of. Who is going to talk about it? Are we just going to play by the rule book, or are we going to regain the space which is lying vacant in the schools? So it's not easy to do, Because again, I mentioned there is a supply and demand. How do you deal with that? But then I think this must be tackled, and you are the right person to tackle it. Well, I don't think so it is impossible, but then we must talk about it. If your classrooms are vacant, then how do I bring the children back? So, I guess
This can be only done if you give well-standard CBSE some weightage. Earlier for JEE main, given a weightage. Now, because CBSE has no weightage, CUET etc. is coming up, they are all taking the students to dummy schools for even maybe to give them the coaching for CUET exams. पहले खाली JEE और NEET के लिए करते थे, अब CUET के लिए भी बच्चों को लेके जा रहे हैं.
मैं सिर्फ I'm sure I'll just take a few minutes. I'll just take a few minutes for my talk. Then we'll be very happy to hear you, because primarily today's meeting is primarily to hear you. And more often than not, it all turns out that we keep talking about it. So we must hear you, and I am sure that there is nothing which is very impossible. We must bring back children to our school, and how we are going to do that, I don't think I have the answer, or I can, but together, if we talk about it, we can find out what the solution is.
That's not only the dummy schools, the homeschooling in the initial years, formative years is also happening now. They don't bring the children to school till 5 or 6 years of age. That's also started happening now.
So where are these children? We can have a conversation. I mean, that reminds me, you see, one of the very prominent plank of the NEP is foundational literacy and numeracy. And I'm glad that we are talking about it, because it's very important that from age 3 to 8, children need to be looked at, their linguistic skills built. They must have some kind of arithmetical, I'm not even using the word mathematics, arithmetical skills. And if you're going to talk about lifelong learning, and if the foundational literacy and numeracy is not good, then lifelong learning perhaps does not make that kind of a sense. So we must get it right. We must get foundational literacy and numeracy well. For those of you who are interested in reading, in 70s, the BBC had a very nice and very important serial by Jacob Bronowski, The Ascent of Life, The Ascent of Man. And if you read the book, I think many of your libraries would have the book. Bronowski in mid-70s was talking about the fact that if a child learns a language by the time he is 4 or 5, he can learn any other language after that. But if he does not learn a language well till the age of 4 or 5, he will not be able to learn any other language. So I'm glad that it has become part of our national discourse. We need to do this well. And I was talking to the chairperson, CBSE, and I said that out of the 28,000 schools, I think 20-odd thousand schools are from class 1 to 12. So I'm told that most of you are running pre-primaries in your school, but if you're not, then this is very important for us. We must do it, get children at a very young age, and give them the kind of environment which they need as envisaged in the National Education Policy to be able to do that. Let me just sum up and I would hear you by quoting two things. You know, in 1903, Eliot wrote where is knowledge in all this information and where is wisdom in all this knowledge? So this is extremely important for us. And the last point I want to tell you is that when the French Revolution was going on, William Wordsworth as a young man was watching it. And he was extremely enthused by the kind of possibility of the French Revolution. And he wrote, which most of you would have read, "Bliss it was in that dawn to be alive, but to young was very heaven." Let us provide this heaven to our children. Thank you.
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महोदय। और आपके भाषण के बाद मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ हम सभी तैयार हैं अपने अपने प्रश्नों के साथ। तो पर आप सबसे मेरा एक अनुरोध है कि हम बारी बारी से प्रश्न पूछेंगे ताकि हम एक पूरी तरीके से स्मूथली इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ा सकें। सो अपना अपना हाथ आप लोग उठाएं प्लीज, वन बाय वन। ज्योति मैम प्लीज।
Thank you so much, sir, for having all of us here to interact with you today. And I think by the response of all of us, you actually pressed the nerve which pains the most today. So I'm sure we can together find the answer to this. I would like to ask you, where do you see CBSE contributing to India becoming the knowledge superpower? Number one. Number two, we are, as CBSE schools, seeing a lot of competition today from the international boards also. A lot of our children are wanting to get an option of an international board. And there are a lot of hiccups in setting up the international boards in the schools. So how can we move forward? How can CBSE make its affiliation bylaws a little more friendly in this case?
Well, this has been, this is not the first time this has been raised. So we are seized of the matter and we've decided, as we always do in CBSE, to set up a committee finally. And we'll invite you to be members of it and a whole lot of other people, including other boards also. And we'll certainly look at it because it is a growing demand. So we are looking at it. Thanks.
अगला प्रश्न सबसे अनुरोध है कि जब आप प्रश्न पूछें तो अपना परिचय भी दें प्लीज। यस मैम।
नमस्कार, मैं संध्या अवस्थी, प्रिंसिपल DPS ग्रेटर नोएडा। I wanted to know that the teachers that are required for 21st century schools are right now being trained in their own schools because reskilling for those skills are required by these teachers, but all the reskilling is happening in our own schools. So how can the B.Ed colleges be revamped to help us do this?
So, as perhaps you would know, we have already launched the ITEP, which is a 4-year multidisciplinary and which would be offered by multidisciplinary colleges. So, the course, the B.Ed course would no longer be restricted to the B.Ed colleges and they would be part of the university system itself, where they would also, the ITEP itself would have a choice to have specialization in the arts, commerce, or science streams along with the educational graduation degrees. So this is where we envisage the 21st century school because we would be having people who would have the multidisciplinary context and environment in that respect.
Ma'am, would these be for in-service teachers as well?
No. The BA
so because we all need to be reskilled, right?
So if you are talking about the reskilling aspects, yes, as far as training is concerned, we would also be looking at that, but that is not the B.Ed degree as such. But yes, reskilling is a very critical part of any of the teachers' capacity building.
That's a very fine suggestion. We've taken note of it. And I guess reskilling for already teachers who are in schools as per what ITEP envisages, we'll work something on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, please.
I heard modern Barakhamba. So I would like to take us back to the subject that interested most of us. I would suggest that something like the CCE, the continuous and comprehensive evaluation that we had in the school, we were thinking of taking it to class 12. But as luck would have it, we have the CUET, where the significance of the school evaluation has almost disappeared. Those who want to get into Delhi University think that it is another board. Therefore, the value of the CBSE finals or annual exam is diminished. Can we do something in this regard to bring back this importance to the schools, to the CBSE? Because it gets lackluster, I feel this way.
A very valid point. I guess the primacy of the board examination also, I mean, CBSE is one, we have 60 school boards across the country with CBSE there. So, yes, what you say is a very live issue. And we are also seized with a matter as to how the primacy of the board examinations can be maintained. Let's do something on that. I mean, offhand, I can't really tell you that this is 1, 2, 3 point of thing, but then yes, we must find a way for it.
I would like to add, he has talked about Parak. One of the mandates of Parak would be not only to bring all the boards at an equivalent level, but also to think of different ways of assessment, making it more stress-free and low stakes. So that is one of the mandate we will be discussing. Thank you.
हमारे साथ वर्चुअल माध्यम से कई प्रधानाचार्य जुड़े हैं। उन्हीं में से एक का सवाल है G20 के बारे में। मैम, आपसे अनुरोध है इसके लिए हाउ टू पार्टिसिपेट एट स्कूल लेवल इन जन भागीदारी इवेंट।
Okay, like I said, CBSE has yesterday taken out the guidelines, detailed guidelines on what Jan Bhagidari events are to be carried out at school level, who all will be participating in it, what activities can be taken up, and besides that, in whatever way you can think of having a 1 day to 3 day program at the school level, involving as many stakeholders as you can. Earlier, NCRT had also circulated also, and it is on their website. There is a conversation between 2 children and a teacher, Kanan, and I forget the name of the girl, which also describes what is G20, what is its importance. So cues can be taken from that also. And already schools have been doing quiz or debates or this issue, so that can be carried out. It is, we can use this time to just generate more awareness about foundational literacy and numeracy, and along with that NEP and G20.
थैंक यू मैम। अगला प्रश्न इस तरफ से। यस मैम।
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम अनुराधा जोशी है और मैं सरदार पटेल विद्यालय से हूँ। Yes, please. The question is in 2 parts, sir. There was a time where students of 11th and 12th also participated in school education and not training wholeheartedly, when there was a percentage of the school marks that went towards the part that addressed the IIT or engineering college examinations. So if there was a weightage to the school exams, they participated in school activities more wholesome, in a more wholesome manner. 2, when we didn't differentiate between academics and co-curricular by including all in the holistic progress card that came out for class 10th, parents stopped emphasizing only on academics. However, for reasons of making for the platform parity conscious across the country, it became so top heavy that teachers started rebelling against all the paperwork that needed to go into it. However, as a school education system, it worked. Where it failed was where the clerical aspects of it overtook the aspects of education and caring. Two, there was another system in India where school education and college education had a gap of 6 months. School exams were over by December. This was the ICSE pattern that was followed around the time when you said you were in school, which gave people 6 months' time to prepare for competitive exams. Both would perhaps help in addressing the problems that we all are facing today. One is the difference between training and learning. The other is the need to have your doors open for college, because apparently the school end exam is not giving you the leverage to walk in. Thank you.
I think we've taken note of it. We've taken note of it, and I think very valid points, because you require some amount of time to be able to prepare for the competitive examinations, yes. But then, how is it that if you do well in your class 12th, does that not naturally also mean that you'll also do well in the competitive exams?
No, sir.
Yes, it does.
No.
No, that's
So,
May
I don't know.
May I add to that, sir? It does. But you see, the thing is, as schools, we cannot blackmail parents into saying, believe in us, which unregulated institutions can. I have children who have over the years got into AIMS or IITs without coaching of any sort. But there are very few of us who can afford that, to have parents believe in us that we can do it. It's not that we can't, but to have parents believe in us that we can do it is where the problem lies. Thank you.
Also, if I may add, that the JEE entrance exam has more than what we teach at class 12. Unless you go to a coaching center, you'll never be able to, just by studying class 12, you won't be able to crack the JEE at all.
Even
The rationalized syllabus has been reduced. Syllabus has been reduced. But when they go for JEE exams and NEET exams, the syllabus is more. So obviously the child will go there. And as a principal, I have made a matrix telling the parents कि देखो ये वाले बच्चे जो हैं ये छोड़ के गए, ये अब कहाँ पर है और जो स्कूल में रहे वो कहाँ पर. But when it is a mindset, every parent wishes to give the best to the child. They feel syllabus of the two. So the life skills have to be a part.
I would also like to add here, the parents themselves are struggling with their own peer pressure. They're struggling with their own peer pressure, and मेरा बच्चा जा रहा है, तुम्हारा बच्चा क्यों नहीं जा रहा? And the coaching centers, they tell the parents, they are able to brainwash them, dummy में डालो जी स्कूल में क्यों रखा है? Holistic growth में और इनको कोई holistic growth से मतलब नहीं IIT crack
सर लेट अस टेक वन बाय वन, एक एक करके हम आगे बढ़ते हैं सर. आप सबसे अनुरोध, हम लोग एक एक करके आगे बढ़ते हैं. लेट अस मूव टू नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, देन एवरीबडी विल गेट अ चांस. यस मैम, प्लीज लिसन टू अदर्स. हो सकता है कि उनका क्वेश्चन आपके साथ मिलता जुलता हो.
I shall request Chairperson CBSE to make a consultative committee of principals who have so many ideas, and let some distilled recommendation comes to us. I assure you we will look into it seriously.
Many thanks, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Namaskar sabhi ko. First of all, thank you for such an insightful session. My question, I'm just trying to divert the attention to another important thing. So, what are the proposals to coordinate industries with the skill and value education to keep in the policy that is there about them? And also, we know that at the end of the day, it's the employability that matters, and you have in your address rightly pointed out. So, how are we going to coordinate these things to keep up the spirit of the NP?
So, of course, the objective of our vocational education courses in the school system is to increase employability, and of course, not we don't concentrate on employment but employability. Now, the industry engagement is very critical. If we have three pillars, if we have our students on one side and we have the trainers on one side and we have also the companies which are there. So the industry engagement has to take place at different levels. For instance, we have to identify when we look at the job roles. We have sector skill councils. We do talk at an institutional level. We do talk to them. What are the kind of new job roles which are coming and what is required. At the same time, we have to translate that into, say, district-specific areas. And again, this is something which we have started a discussion on, not just with, say, the CBSE schools, because we have, that's a small minority. We have a lot of schools which are in the state educational boards. So we have started the dialogue with the state governments as to what are the kind of industries which you would like to start with. So that is at an institutional level where we specify the kind of job roles and therefore the corresponding skills which are skill set which is required and therefore the curriculum which should be offered. So when we design the curriculum itself, we also have experts from the industry areas. The two places where we are falling short, one, are trainers for vocational education. They actually lack the industry experience. What we have seen best practices from across the world is that the trainers who actually come into the system already have a lot of experience in the industry itself. And that makes them good teachers because they are abreast with the knowledge, with the skill sets, and with the kind of technology which is prevailing. Today, we tend to hire trainers for short periods, and the level of attrition is also very high. One way that we are also looking at is instead of hiring, say, trainers, from outside, but also looking at our own teachers who are in that subject, but skilling them. We have already spoken about reskilling and upskilling our teachers. But this is another way where a person who actually has the academic knowledge, and schools are, of course, free to follow this model also, where they train them in that particular job role, in that curriculum, and also maybe perhaps get them an industry experience. So that is one thing. The fourth aspect of this is the kind of internship or apprenticeship that should be there. This is also something which we really haven't had much success with, because for vocational educational courses, we actually need to invite the corporates, the companies in, whether it is through their CSR activities or through their own interest, through their own self-interest also, if you would like to call that. We need to get them on board. And we need to start that dialogue where our students actually go to those places, go to those industries and spend some time. The concept of 10 bagless days, while of course that is at a lower level, but that's one way. It's not just good enough to treat it in a totally unstructured manner. We encourage schools to have a structured curriculum for those bagless days. They are not free days actually. They're supposed to go and a lot of thought has to be put into that also. Otherwise, that kind of vocational exposure would also not increase. So the point is well taken, and I think we have also come to realize that without the industry engagement, our educational courses, simply because they are the best placed to provide the aspirational ambitions, they will ultimately fulfill that. And if they are able to talk to the students, if they are able to train the teachers or train the trainers, we would certainly have a better success rate in vocational education. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll take a question from the back. Yes, sir.
All right, Pratima, I'm Rashmi Malik from Sulwan Public School, Gurugram. I would like to add up to this, because we are doing it in our school, the internships, and the parent community is a very strong support. And, it is very secure also, because the parent is taking the onus. So our 11th class and 12th class students are going for internship every year with the help of the parents, and this is going very beautifully. So I would like to give this suggestion. And my initial, sir, the question was actually about the board exam, what style it will be now, after implementation of the NEP 2020. But as I can understand that it's not very clear right now, whether it is 2 times in a year or whether it will be year-end only or what kind of style it will be. One suggestion that if you can add up the credit frameworks into it very strongly, which will have on-ground activities added on to the credit points. I think this will work. So these are my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, we are also waiting for the finalization of the National Curriculum Framework. And if you'll see, some of the issues which you have just mentioned, they are very well contained in the NCF. So maybe in a month's time or maybe 6 weeks' time, we should have the NCF in public domain.
Ma'am, just a second, ma'am. So there is one question which is coming online. Will 10th exams be discontinued? ये बहुत common question आ रहा है जो हमारे पास है. Will 10th board examination be discontinued?
Supposed to be, according to.
But nobody has told us to discontinue. So yes, we will continue with the 10th board, subject to, of course, the NCF, which is coming out. But I don't think it will do away with the 10th boards. Maybe the pattern of assessment may be recommended to be changed, but 10th is here to stay. So.
Thank you so much, ma'am. ये बहुत ही common question आ रहा था हमारे पास chat में. Now I invite Mrs. Sudhacharya, Principal ITL Public School. हाँ, ये presentation के बाद हम दोबारा questions लेंगे. Let her share her views on HPC which she has implemented in her school. Sudha ma'am.
Namaskar. I feel privileged to get this opportunity to present before you the Holistic Progress Card, which is a mandate of NEP 2020 and NCF Foundational Years also. अगर आप NCF Foundational Years की document को पढ़ें and निपुण भारत and NEP को पढ़ें, these are completely aligned. And एक बच्चे की जर्नी जो है वो अन्नमय विकास से आनंदमय विकास तक जाता है. पंचकोश की बात हम करते हैं. सो HPC में यही है इसका स्पिरिट कि when the child is coming to you, they may come from different diverse background, their home environment may be different, there are different school readiness. So the common teaching learning practice may not help them. And here we are talking about the holistic child or whole child approach. So school is not a place only for cognitive development. We are talking about socio-emotional, spiritual, psychological, psychomotor, behavioral, art and aesthetic, language and literacy, basic mathematical operation. So I'm including all prime years learning. So I'll be taking only 5 minutes, which is given to me to complete or summarize this holistic progress card. So it is really inclusive, participatory, and it is based on power of curiosity and experiential learning, task-based, activity-based. So how it goes? It takes care of the whole child, as I said. In primary year, the learning areas are diverse. So what we are doing in Nipun Bharat, they have outlined 3 developmental goals. 3 to 8 years, we are talking about the first structure of NEP, that is 5. 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So I am talking about the first 5. So there are 3 developmental goals. DG1 is health and well-being, where we are taking care of physical safety, security, health, hygiene, sanitation, pro-social behavior, all these things. DG2, developmental goal 2, is effective communicators. So here we are talking about language competency, first language and second language. As सबने बताया कि 3 to 6 years में बच्चे सबसे अच्छा सीखते हैं रीजन लैंग्वेज या लोकल लैंग्वेज और मदर टंग. सो जब बच्चे हमारे पास आते हैं वो अपने भाषा में ही इंटरेक्ट करना पसंद करते हैं. सो मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म की बात एनईपी कर रहे हैं तो एचपीसी में भी इसको हम साथ साथ लिए हैं. तो इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेटर में हम लैंग्वेज एंड लिटरेसी स्किल को फोकस करते हैं. द थर्ड डेवलपमेंटल गोल इज इन्वॉल्व्ड लर्नर. This is the third developmental goal, where environmental awareness, financial literacy, all those, the world around us, mathematical operation, everything is coming. So these are 3 developmental goals associated with competencies. So these days we are talking a lot about competency-based education, that we are shifting from content-based to competency-based education. So competencies are statements which reflect what the children will do, will know, will demonstrate. So these are competencies. And competencies and developmental goals are associated with learning outcomes. So what are learning outcomes? Learning outcomes are statements or having acquired these competencies. They reflect having acquired these competencies. So these are 3 parts of holistic progress card. The first one is developmental goals identified by Nipun Bharat and associated with competencies. There may be many competencies and many learning outcome. So teachers will be given that kind of freedom, autonomy to find out the crucial competencies which are very, very based on critical instruction. So all the instruction here are based on activity, based on play, based on discussion, based on observation, assimilation, and reflection. So we are talking about competencies. So how do we really grade these competencies? We have moved away from marks and grades. HPC believes that one score, one grade cannot define the competency of a child. So we are talking about holistic growth, taking care of, including, like I say, high 5 strategy of learning, maybe puppetry, storytelling, role play, visual performing art, and technology, taking together. And then there are 7 wonders of learning. The child can touch, see, feel, taste, smell. All these sensory integration together, the child is growing. So HPC will help to track the progress of the child continuously and to identify uniqueness in every child. It focuses on strength and interest areas of every child. So I spoke to you about developmental goals, competencies, and the learning outcome. So we, during the pilot, we have developed the prototype of HPC, which is based on self-assessment, child self-expression. Just to give you one example, when the child is expressing self, who am I? So you can find out the child is really filling up the progress card himself or herself. So any child can paste a picture of himself or draw or color or can speak. So we are giving that kind of freedom to the child, how he or she expresses himself. So, and then this is self-expression, teacher expression, teacher assessment, peer assessment, and parent assessment. HPC builds a beautiful connection between home and school. So parents are an integral part of HPC. They take part while we conduct activities and while we assess the children. So parents are an integral part of assessment as well as learning process of the child. So the process has to be beautiful rather than the product. So the process of learning has to be beautiful. That is wholesome. While we take care of all primary years of learning. So the health and well-being may take care of health, hygiene, pro-social behavior. There are certain competencies, they're identified. You need not take all the competencies and multiple learning outcomes defined with that. Our learning outcomes are also defined by NCERT and defined by Nipun Bharat. So you can find out the crucial competencies and most important learning outcome when the child is moving from grade 1 to grade 2. That minimum learning outcome and crucial competencies the child has to achieve. So there are 3 labels. How do we grade? The first one is beginners. So who are the beginners? Beginners are the children who are at the beginning stage. They need lot of hand holding and support. Maybe physical prompting, maybe verbal prompting. So lot of support is required. And here the teacher develops a narrative with the parents how to support the child, parental support, school support, all together. So it is beautiful document where teachers are more collaborative. Unless you collaborate with each other, HPC will not be possible. So the grade 1 is beginner level. The second one is progressing. Here, some children are independently performing the task. Some part of the task is done independently and some part of the task they need help. So that is progressing, that one part of the task the child is able to do independently and some part they need support. Proficiency. Who is a proficient child? The child who independently completes the task proficiently without any help and is in a position to help others. So there are 3 grades. One is beginner, one is progressing, one is proficient. So how do we really reflect this? Through non-hierarchical icons or neutral icons, like we have developed smiley, flower, and trees. So smiley reflects beginner stage, flower reflects progressing, and tree, a symbol of growth, reflects proficiency. So these 3 we are reflecting through that. So through the pilot, I must express my journey, which was beautiful in 2 minutes. So it is so inclusive, so participatory. First of all, like CCE, where teachers felt the burden of lot of paperwork. Just now you were expressing. HPC is doing away with it. We can use AI also to fill up this progress card. And first thing is mapping the concepts. It is based on concept clarity and understanding. So chapter number 4 of Maths, chapter number 3 of EVS, chapter number 1 of English and Hindi can be combined together to deliver a concept. So there has to be collaboration. If I give you one simple example, water in class 3 in EVS, so where water, sources of water, measurement of water, shape of water, a value can be attached, conservation of water. Finally, children are really singing a song, rhyme of water, how sports can come into delivering this concept. So here we are beautifully integrating, breaking the subject silos, mass, EVS, language concept, everything, because it is based on concept mapping. So all the teachers, they sat down, grade 1, 2, 3, and they did mapping of the curriculum. Then they designed very mindfully each task or activity which will assess this, we will be able to assess these competencies and achieve the learning outcomes. So we are moving away from chapter wise transaction in the classroom to concept or thematic wise, where all the competencies can be really assessed. So that this is the basic core of HPC. So here when we were doing, parents of course had a lot of comprehension, because in Indian context, parents define their children by marks and scores. So 10 out of 10, 25 out of 25. So they asked me, how do you assess how my child is really doing? How do I know? So continuous dialogue between school head, teachers and parents is most importantly required, and let parents come inside the classroom, be a part of the activity and assessment. While I was mentoring KVs, the class size is very big, 50, 55 like that, and one mother teacher, and they get transferred in between. So that was the biggest challenge while mentoring. So what we need to do, as a school leader, I have to mobilize all the resources available to me. So if one mother teacher, that means we have trained 3 teachers, grade 1, 2, 3. That training has to percolate down to all the primary staff. And while then they said 50 students, how do we assess one teacher? You need not assess alone. You can bring in your music teacher, you can bring in your sports teacher, your conservancy staff, your peer educators and parents. So mobilize the resources, what you have in your hand, and then it is possible. So that was the basic challenge which I faced, really, how it can be a reality. Now, only 74 schools we piloted this HPC, and through continuous dialogue, now parents are at the same platform with us. They are enjoying the journey because they are part and parcel of Holistic Progress Cards journey. So that's how I'll show you. These are 3 progress card, holistic progress card, which finally has gone to parents' hand. So where competencies, outcomes, developmental goals are mapped. And here there is a part of peer assessment. So one simple example, peer assessment doesn't take place in cognitive capacities. It is while you are conducting any task, any activity, peer can give their suggestion. Suppose in class 1, I mean, you are asking, suppose, a simple question, how was your Sunday? Was your Sunday? How many critical competencies you can assess, really? Whether the child is able to sequence from morning till evening, whether the child can express in language or lot of animation or lot of non-verbal communication, or properly speaking in 2 languages, whether the child is able to involve environment, siblings, parents, society at large. So we are trying to find out all the developmental goals and the competencies. Just a simple question, how was your Sunday? Or asking class 1 children to write a book on visit to park with mama. So beautiful presentation in the class. Then they are giving suggestion to each other. Keep your hands at the back. You were looking nervous. Class 1 child is talking to another boy. So this is beautiful kind of peer actually assessment. So self-assessment, peer assessment, and parent assessment, parental feedback. The last part is portfolio. So we keep evidence of child's work, and then it can be in the form of collage, it can be form of picture, it can be podcast, it can be a video. So we maintain child's work, that is portfolio, as we were doing in CCE time. So this is the basic spirit of HPC, which is our reality in my school. I hope it will be adopted and adapted in all the CBSE schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudha ma'am, for sharing your journey of holistic progress card piloting. So this pilot has been done in 74 schools across the country, and we had trained a group of teachers from first class 1, class 2, and class 3. So down the line, they were asked to replicate the entire model in the classrooms as well as in their schools. Concept mapping with the competencies was done and shared with them, and also it was told to them that they can adapt and adopt as per their situation, as per their context. So the results have been, we have received the results and the feedback from the schools, and it is being compiled for submissions and information of other schools as well. And we'll be aligning the card with in the light of NCF now. Now I take the next question. Yes, sir.
Hello. Good morning to all of you. मैं देवेंद्र कुमार सिंह, प्रिंसिपल जवाहर नवोदय विद्यालय फरीदाबाद. My question is that what more can we do for making the school better place?
ये तो आप हमें बताएंगे.
Well, I would say something about it. Add more of fun learning, but more than that, sports into curriculum and Indian traditional games and the sports. And that brings me to my little suggestion as like a request that we talked about health and well-being. We also talked about getting away from the coaching factories. What about marks for sports? That would bring children to the school. If we have sports happening in the school, it should bring interest and it should translate them into getting away from the coaching factories and somewhere towards the continuous assessment that we were just contemplating, that you just said you would come back to us. with a thought on this. So if somewhere for sports we reward them, judge them on the field, I think it would be a good idea.
थैंक यू सर। एक प्रश्न हमारे पास बहुत ऑनलाइन माध्यम से बहुत ज्यादा बार आ रहा है। पहली बात ये कि हाउ कैन वी कोलैबोरेट मोर विद इंडस्ट्रीज फॉर वोकेशनल एजुकेशन और स्किल एजुकेशन मैम? व्हाट आर द वेज वी कैन एक्सप्लोर मोर? राइट। So
I think we can just, it has been noted, perhaps we are also in the process of, collating some of the best practices there, and that would also help to give ideas to the other schools which are there, if that can answer the question.
ठीक है। I invite Shija ma'am for asking questions to the principals. अभी तक आप लोगों ने हमसे पूछा, अब there are few questions which we'll be asking to you. One by one, please. We'll come back to you after this.
Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity. We have a few questions, and it's basically on inclusive part of education. So I'll go one by one. The first question is to all principals, whether school heads have initiated any unique interventions, such as orientation of parents on aspects of disability and inclusion, introduction of the buddy system, or individualized remedial education for CWSN enrolled at the secondary stage. We agree with you up to class 8, it is there. But from class 9 to 12, we would like to know more from you.
It is
Because at class 12, from class 9, the subjects increase. It's specialized subjects. A special educator cannot cover all the subjects. So how are the children being taken care of from secondary stage onwards?
We offer modified subjects, which is there in the CBSE.
Sorry, I can't.
Namaskar.
Yeah, please.
There are modified subjects which are there, and the skill subjects which are there. These CWSN students can take it up, and then we have teachers specially trained for the same, and they do take up these subjects. It is been taken up in class 12th also and class 10th also.
Is it widely practiced in all schools?
Yes.
We have a special award in our school, Ambassador of Goodwill, for these kind of buddies, who are helping the CW.
So we, and of course, as per the scheme of studies, they can choose the subjects, and apart from that, subjects like marketing, tourism, these are the ones where they get really involved, and they get sufficient help from their peers also. And according to scheme of studies, they can choose more number of vocational subjects.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, not only peer buddies, we have also started out teachers helping them out in these 1 week of pre-vacation time. Children were coming to school with their parents, getting interacted with the teacher and getting closer to the teacher, and then adjusting finally in the session coming up after the vacations.
May I add
Ma'am, I have a question here for.
In our school, we have a system of teachers volunteering to stay back after the school, including the principal, and we take one-on-one classes. Similar system we have for the students also, where the senior students volunteer to stay back with the support of their parents, and they take classes for the junior children, and especially those who have the learning disability. The counselor takes sessions with them, and she gives them basic insights into how to support these systems. So we have support groups in the school.
Ma'am, I have a question here. I'm sorry, but it's related to this inclusive. We would like CBSE also to be a bit liberal in that case. I have a student who has 30% disability, but he has been rejected by CBSE for extra time, like he would not be given. That's what we have got the latest communication. But I know that that child cannot do. He cannot, he needs that extra time. So we should be slightly liberal with him.
CBSE has been giving the extra time to such children already.
No, only till 40% disability. Sir, he has 30%, the child I'm talking about, and we have been refused. So in case we could be slightly liberal with them and consider. We've been still pursuing.
I would again request you to get in touch with
Fine.
May I please?
Thank you. Thank
Ma'am,
you
May
so
I
much.
add something
yeah,
to it?
in this regard, I just want to share with CBSE chairperson, like, ma'am, CBSE is giving only extra time or a scribe. The children with physical disability and intellectual disability are taken on par, and these are the two benefits that are being extended. So,
May I add one more,
so
please?
is it, I mean, I want to, the larger audience, do you think physical disability and intellectual disability can be considered on the same par? But intellectual disability, a child needs some modification in syllabus. They cannot take the whole load of syllabus. Just by giving extra time, it doesn't address the needs of children with intellectual
Ma'am,
disability.
in our school,
into children with special needs. We have children special needs, we have special educators, and from grade 9 onwards, there is a provision they can drop certain subjects and they can take some other subjects which are skill subjects. And this year, one of my CWSN child has got 92% from grade 12th. Of course, with the support of the teachers and special educators. Apart from that, since the child was good in computer science with machines, so he was working with his father in his office and doing all the billing work, and teachers in the school supported him in this. So now today he can help his parents in their business. So this way we are mapping their abilities with the professional competencies, and this is how our children are doing really well. Thank you so much. I would say, I would appreciate CBSE for giving this opportunity to our children. Thank you.
Thank
May
you
I
all.
add May I add one thing more, please? Even in English medium schools, if you have odd children who cannot pick up a language, there is provision within the system for individual children or group of children to do it in Hindi or any other language. So there are many provisions. If you read through, we do get. So
Yes,
thanks
we
to
do
the
have
system.
a lot of provision, but I have one request to CBSE. Students who are autistic, for them it is very difficult to go to another center and write an exam because they get disturbed by the environment. So for autistic students, if the exam can be done at the home centers, we will maintain the entire sanctity of the exam. We can have the invigilators from the other school from where they have to come, because one of my students suffered in the exam because the child is autistic, and the child suffered when he went to the other school. He was just running around that school to see the environment and to acclimatize himself. Then we had to do an exercise where we told the parents and request that school if we can send our student every day to go sit in the classroom so that the child is able to acclimatize to the new environment and then write the exam. So this is one request, if we can see the autistic students in a different way and help them out in some way. Thank you.
Okay, we would like to go to the next question, please. School heads may please share their experience on the use of Precious, the mobile app for screening of disabilities in schools. I hope you're all aware of the Precious mobile app. So, how do you find the app? Does it help you in? Hmm. And you.
We need to see more traction on that. We're not seeing traction.
Okay. So, what class level do you start using the app? Is it at FLN stage or beyond that?
All stages. All stages. Prashast is being used in the schools as a tool, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then thank you. The next question is, has any curricular adaptations and exam modifications or accommodations been made for CWSN enrolled in vocational education courses? Whether review has been undertaken to ensure barrier-free school infrastructure for CWSN as per accessibility standards specified in the accessibility code document. Ma'am, this you'll be having the details if you can share with us. Then next question is, how does CBSE schools contemplate the workload and adaptation of the proposed NCF school education curriculum 2023, wherein 8 compulsory domains are to be covered by the students for the class 10 board examination? This is about the new curriculum for school education, which Secretary Sir and Additional Secretary Sorry?
Srija,
It's in the public
no,
domain.
no, that is the draft. And we are supposed to give our comments. So, and we've also requested NCRT reps are also there. As ma'am said, it requires greater clarity. So let us not go into that at the moment.
Okay. Then the last question is how are children with learning disability provided teaching assistant at that I think was covered at the secondary school level? Are the students able to cope with the volume load of the syllabus meant for class 10 and class 12 board examinations? This is for children with learning disabilities.
It's difficult,
Sorry,
but they manage.
Not all. Some of the children then they go for NIOS. So they feel that that is a better combination and yeah. CBSE people, can we have, because autistic children also have the same CBSE syllabus. Yes. Whether it is home science or any other subject, can we do specially for autistic children or this disabled children to have some change in the same syllabus? CBSE syllabus, because it is not easy. Now with the new policy, they are going to take 4 compulsory things in that one course. It will be very difficult for them. So CBSE should give permission to have only 2, compulsory topics out of that subject. That will be better.
For example, even the syllabus for advanced maths and basic maths is the same.
Yeah.
So there is really no use of taking basic maths.
Yeah, that is true.
Sometimes the paper is also very something to do with the syllabus, something to do with the syllabus, reduce the difficulty level of syllabus for these special needs children within CBSE syllabus. Yes.
Ma'am, use your mic.
More and more questions becoming competency based.
Yeah.
These children require direct questions.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
cannot infer, they cannot analyze such type of questions. Till class 8, we give modified papers, but in board years, it is not
I
possible.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, sir, that's the question. Thank you, sir.
जिन लोगों के माइक ऑन है कृपया उसको ऑफ कर लें जो माइक ऑन है प्लीज ऑफ कर लें क्योंकि उससे
Thank you, Shuja ma'am. Now we take the next questions from the back there. Yes, ma'am, please.
Greetings to everyone present here. My question is, ma'am, about Atal Tinkering Labs. How will Atal Tinkering Labs be different from the existing science labs in the school? That is my first question. And my second question is about basic maths and standard maths paper. The quality of paper and the syllabus of basic maths is the same in class 10th. And even I feel the level of paper was also difficult in class 10th this year. I feel last year also.
Even for applied maths, the problem remains the same.
You know, I'm aware of the fact that we spoke about Atal Tinkering Lab. And we are aware of the fact that you may have something very similar to that, which you may call it by some other name. So we will share a template with you, and if you have a science lab or any other lab or whatever you might call it, if they are interoperable or they are the same, I have no issues at all. So we'll share a template with you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, sir.
Ma'am, just a second, ma'am. We'll be taking the questions after this address.
Madam, please, last question.
Sir, just a moment. If you know that we have taken several initiatives recently, and as ma'am has also shown in her presentation, so one such initiative is SUFFLE, that is Structured Assessment for Analyzing Learning, and that has been piloted in 1887 schools across country. So I request Mr. Sanjay Yadav to share his experience regarding Safal.
So, good afternoon, dignitaries on the stage, and dear colleagues and change makers, as we call it in NPSC. When we are looking at a lot of discussion happening today, and the focus is drifting towards assessment, the focus towards learning, some initiative which has come, and being a part of that initiative, I would love to share my experience. Whenever any new initiative comes, obviously the question is there at the back of many minds, that what is it about and how does it happen? Is there anybody who has experienced it? And if somebody has experienced it, what are their experiences like? And then when we look at the platform, when we look at the tool as it was very well defined, and I'm not going to go into the literature, which everybody is well aware of it, that what is SAFAL or what does it entail and how is it administered. But let's try to look at the very fundamental thoughts which come with regards to assessment. That when we talk about assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. And then when we start looking into it, we look at the aspects of testing the questions, designing the questions, and presenting. Think of a child who is coming with the simple mindset that yes, there is a non-challenging atmosphere. I have something, even if I have not learned it, I have not so-called rote learning or mugging up and prepared, still I can face that assessment. And at the end of it, if the child says that when is such kind of assessment going to happen again? So this is the excitement which is what was felt by students. And of course, as we are moving on, when we are looking at the power of technology, when we are looking at the power of analysis, so learning is something which cannot be analyzed in simple terms, but at the same time, we as educators need to have benchmarks. We as educators need to reflect on the practices which are happening. And we as educators have to look at it holistically, that where are our children developing? So in all those aspects, this is something which is a great initiative which has been taken. And I can say that we are thankful to CBSE for giving us this opportunity to be a part of this pilot, which actually started with initially as a mock. Everybody is aware of it, that it will be administered at the level of grade 3, grade 5, and grade 8. So a mock which was done for grade 8, teachers and students' feedback became significant. And then after that, there was a pilot which was also conducted. And before conducting the pilot, again, let us look at the process. That the item which is being designed, what are the thoughts which have to be there today? If we are talking about assessment, it is entirely in our hands. Everybody has gone through a situation where we were not aware of how to conduct online assessment for children when pandemic came. And at that time, how people innovated, how were children engaged, and how that process of assessment defined itself, refined itself, and it became child friendly. So children, they were able to apply, they were able to see that there is something for me in this form of assessment. This is what is there. I'm giving you a simple example. One of the questions, being a science person, I came across a question in Safal, which was administered to a child saying that what would be the most appropriate unit to measure the height of a ladder? And then there were options in millimeter, centimeter, meter, or kilometer. So this is, again, I would say that there's no standard answer, but based on the application, based on the observation, based on the experience of child feels that there is something which he or she is able to express in that. So the whole idea of this assessment platform is giving children a non-challenging atmosphere, at the same time testing their skills not on the basis of rote learning, but in terms of competencies. We've heard the term competency, we are talking about competency-based assessment, and then let's try to understand the very simple literal meaning, which I find it very beautiful to understand the term competency, that it is the knowledge plus skill plus the attitude. Because unless all three of them develop in a child together, then there will be competency development which will happen. And now as educators, if we need to find that whether competencies in children are developing or not. So the item designing becomes a core component of the assessment. And those items which should be designed in such a manner that if we are administering it like in our school, we administer it to the entire section. The thought was very simple when you are taking an entire section as a sample. So you are trying to look at different kind of students. There are some students who are looking for challenging questions. There are some students who are looking for very basic questions, that there is something in the question paper which I find interesting and is inviting that I can give my reaction to that. And then the bigger idea, because the entire world acknowledges the power of data. So when we are looking at a platform like or a tool like Shuffle, it is also taking us to the power of large data. Because when it will be administered to a large number of students, there will be a data collection which will be able to give us a clearer picture and which will be able to further help us reflect on the practices which are happening inside our classroom. So it's a simple question that why is the need which we understand. It's a process where we are trying to redefine how should we do it. And if we understand that how should we do it, I'm sure that this is going to benefit. So there are a lot of reflections which came from teachers. There were reflections from students. And again, basic competencies or the subjects which were being tested is the linguistic skill, or when we talk about the quantum aptitude of the children in terms of numeracy. And then, of course, basic science skills. So these are the three subjects in which the tests have been administered. The data which has been collected has been discussed, and in fact, there have been sessions after that. Dr. Pragya had been a part of it, who had invited the teachers who actually conducted the test, this pilot, and then they reflected on every question. There were experts from the field, because when we look at the earlier assessment practices which were happening in terms of collection of data, how is it different? It's very, very important for us to understand the whole concept. And this is there to empower, this is there to help, and this is there to actually take the learning competency base. So learning, though it can never be measured, but this is something which can be made, a child can be made to believe that, yes, what have you learned? How have your competencies developed? And this is a hope which we want to give it to our children. So this has been our experience, and I want to thank once again for this opportunity given to the children, and let's hope more and more children are able to take this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanjay Yadav ji. I request Vipin Kumar sir to come on stage and share your suggestions, sir. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. Actually, all the CBSE schools, or the private schools, in fact, you are having 25% children also from EWS. So that is also one issue which we wrote to the CBSE also. The students after eighth standard actually. So we are curious to know, Miss, whether they continue in the same school, or what's happening to those students after 8th onwards, because they are supposed to pay their fee.
Sir, they are the part of the school till 12th class, and as per the Delhi government, we are not charging a single paisa right now, and they are the part of the school.
So actually, Miss, it's in Delhi, but when I speak about this 25% EWS, just wanted to know the inputs from other states also. So Miss CBSE can just check with other states also, private schools.
यहाँ पर उत्तर प्रदेश और हरियाणा के भी प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, तो अपने एक्सपीरियंस शेयर कर सकते हैं. What about after 8th they are doing for such students?
Oh, so it's very good to hear that, Miss.
Yeah, we continue to keep them. Sir, may I share something?
Yes, yes, please.
I'm Sunita Gupta, principal of Air Force Balabhati School, and I just want to bring to everybody's attention that this year our class 12 topper is a child who got admission under EWS. She has got 98.4%.
So that was my second question actually, the performance of students coming to 12-1C. So, Miss, if you compare, I'm not saying that we should compare, but I think that Miss, there is no dearth of talent in our country. So, Miss, I think and I presume that they also are doing well when they come up to standard 12th or okay.
There are all kinds of students in the EWS category, sir.
Mhm,
All of
mhm.
them in the same class.
And my third and last question is, because most of the CBSE schools, they are from 1 to 12 standards. So these students,
Nursery.
oh, preschool to 12th, okay. So if any child is coming to standard 1 or preschool in CBSE schools, so whether they continue up to 12th in your school, generally if the parents are not in transferable
So
job,
they never leave.
no, miss, my question is the issue of dropouts. Miss, the whether dropouts also is taking in CBSE schools or because in other schools
So
it's
dropouts are not happening, but lately now, as we all have discussed, the dummy school concept has taken the students
that
out
is
of
actually
the
the
school.
different issue, but just miss whether the students are not dropping out
No,
from
no, he's
CBSE
asking in
schools.
general. In general.
Okay, so these were my three issues.
Excuse me, sir.
Thanks for input.
Some
Thank
schools
you.
are on private land. Excuse me, sir. Some schools are on private land, so they are having EWS quota up to 8th class only. So their dropouts can be there. Almost, I think, 30 to 40%, well, more than that, dropouts are
So
there.
they are not going to any other school also,
No, sir,
government
they are
school?
going probably to government schools. Probably to government schools, sir.
Okay, thank you.
But by and large, I think this is a very heartwarming. This is very heartwarming to hear, and the fact that many of these children are doing exceptionally well when it comes to academics, it somehow convinces us that they're doing something right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to announce one more thing, that at one point of time, only 5 mics can be used. So while you are speaking, just switch on the mic and immediately please switch it off. So, yeah. One of the another initiative that we have taken is QAF, and we have amongst us one of the resource persons who have been training other schools across the country. So I invite Mrs. Neeti Kapoor, Principal, Army Public School, Delhi Kent, to share her views on this.
A very good afternoon to the eminent personalities present here and my learned friends. As you know, when you're the last speaker in the house, the level of patience goes. So I've just been given 3 to 4 minutes to sum it up. What is SQAF? I'm not going to lecture you on SQAF. We're all very aware of what SQAF is. SQAAF. It tells us about quality. It defines quality. What is quality? I mean, quality is a very abstract term. Before SQAF came in, it was a very abstract term. Quality, my dear friends, is not a destination. It is a journey. It is a beautiful journey of endless possibilities, of opportunities, of evolution. And our benchmarks, our yardsticks keep improving. So, CBSE, with this beautiful endeavor, has tried to quantify quality, has tried to make it concrete, has tried to make it achievable, implementable, visible, and I would say palpable. When you enter a quality school, you can feel the quality around, and that's what the endeavor of CBSE has been. We are all aware that NEP 2020 has reflected upon the entire education system very holistically and has covering the key aspects and has recommended far-sighted pathways, not just for reconfiguration, but also restructuring of governance and regulation of the school systems. And it has put forward the inception of an ecosystem which talks of assessment, and evolving standards to increase the effectiveness of our systems and the efficiency of our governance and regulation. Therefore, CBSE has tried to, with the objective of the attainment of goals of NEP, has come up with the framework for school excellence, which is called SQAAF. And it's very beautifully defined. I'm sure you must be aware in 2012 when it was coming as SQAAA. It was assessment and accreditation. Now it is assurance. And assurance to all the stakeholders that yes, the school is on a continual path of self-discovery and self-improvement. That is the underlying principle of SCOF. So, SCOF comes with 3-4 underlying principles. One, quality is implementable, it is achievable. Also, it is guided transformational change. हम बताएंगे, CBSE बताएगा आपको कि हर स्टेप पे आपको क्या करना है. Where are you right now? Where do you want to go? And how is it that you're going to go? It has all been very beautifully elaborated in the SCOF manual. That is the first principle. Second principle, the SCOF has been made on the fact that there is no differential set of quality or criteria for schools. आप गवर्नमेंट स्कूल हैं तो ये आपके लिए अलाउड है, चलता है, but we are a private school, so we have to maintain quality. No, the parameters for quality is the same for government aided and all the private schools. That brings us all on a platform of equality. That's the beautiful thing. SCOF is again very learner-centered. Learner-centered in the sense, coming back again to the question which was there in the house of how do you make kids come back to school when the criteria for assessing quality of school is only your 10th and 12th mark results. And if those brilliant students are not coming to your school and going to coaching centers, how are we going to assess the quality of the schools? Again, the quality of the schools will not just be mandated to 10th and 12th. 7 domains as per SCOF, the 40%, if we say quality is 100%, so 40% goes to curriculum and pedagogy, your infrastructure, your human resources, your governance, management and governance, inclusive practices, and your leadership and beneficiary satisfaction. Those are these areas covered in this. So schools have to, it's a very simple process. Schools have to check their own processes. It's a process of self-appraisal, self-assessment. You review, you check on the website, see what are the yardsticks, see where you are, plan, make a team, make parents a part of the team. That is very, very important. And again, coming back to your question, ma'am, when you said, how is inclusive practices being taken on? So make parents a part of your journey of the child. That is one most important thing. Then check where you stand. And there are 4 levels which have been set. First is the inceptive level. There are no marks, but there are levels. The inceptive level, you are at the basis. The transient level, the stable level, and the ever dynamic evolving. Like I told you, quality is always evolving. These are the 4 levels you have to reach. Now coming back to the question which I am asked to stand here, that what was my journey as a principal and how has it impacted our school? So I head Army Public School, where we have people coming from various state, diverse backgrounds, and we only have 1.5 years, 2 years to bring in changes in a child compared to other schools where a child has 12 years with you. So we have to equip the child in just 2 years, give him all the skills, give him all the facilities and equip him and harness his potential so that when he goes to the next school, we have that satisfaction that we have done our best. So when we started working with SCOF, it gave us the insight. And we were selected by the Indian Army for being a pilot school for inclusive practices. SCOF gave us an insight as to how to go about it. Because the first parameter, first requirement of SCOF is a policy document, which we all don't have. Fortunately, in the Army, we have policy documents for everything, SOPs for everything. But then when we sat down, it made us research the literature on inclusive practices. What does the RCI say about inclusion? What does CBSE say about inclusion? What does the state policy say? What does NEP say? What does your UN SDG goals say about inclusion? So, having made a robust, structured policy for inclusion. Then came the various steps, whether it was screening at the initial level, observations, counseling, and meetings with the entire stakeholders, informal assessments, formal assessments by clinicians to know the way forward, and then making your IEPs and the path forward. NEP, your SCOF tells us of continuous review and mapping your progress. So it gave us an insight that how we are going to map not just the academic part where we made the curricular adaptations and the modifications for the child, but when we are talking of inclusive practices, it's just not the marks. We have to focus on other things like functional literacy. Usko apna juta bandna aata hai ki nahi, kundi kholna aata hai ki nahi, functional literacy, his socio-emotional well-being, and his life skills. So we were able to map the developmental trajectory, and by mapping the trajectory, we could come to know the talents, and we could come to know these people are very good in sports. That helped us to make a structured program for sports. We had 5 verticals for sports, right from fitness and wellness to strategy and sports to nutrition and lifestyle changes to knowledge of sports injuries, knee, ankle, your postures, your sprain, and of course, life skills in sports for these children. Life skills in sports, when I talk of your emotional outburst, your ability to respect the referee, your ability to respect the opponent team, your ability to accept failure very, very gracefully. So these verticals were very, very made in a very structured manner, and levels were made for students. When I talk of strategy and strategy and tactics, we made various levels. Whereas the child at first level, second level, third level, fourth level, or fifth level. When it comes to first level, the level 1 was whether the child has exposure for sports or not. Second level, when he goes to the ground, does he require physical help or verbal help? Third, does he know about the rule? Fourth level, whether he's able to do 2-3 coordinated functions without help. Fifth level was that he is able to know about the rules and regulations and play. Sixth level was he's integrated with the students and can play unified sports. The impact of the journey and of the knowledge having gained through this being a member of the SCOF core team was that we could implement it on our kids. And the result was, I just spoke to you about the inclusive practices of special children. And the result was, I would like to tell the house that with the structured mapping and working on our kids, 4 of our children will be representing India in the special Berlin Olympics being held from June 12th to June 18th. And I seek the blessings of everyone here and my friends for those kids so that they can make our country proud. So, sir, this journey has been really fruitful, and we could bring in the impact with the students, and they were really very happy. Thank you. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू नीतू मैम फॉर शेयरिंग योर एक्सपीरियंस. हमारे पास ऑनलाइन माध्यम से एक सवाल आया है. Without revamping the curriculum, how we can introduce all these new innovations to the school working hours?
ओके, थैंक यू प्रज्ञा. मैं क्वेश्चन एक बार दोबारा रिपीट करता हूं आप सबको, क्योंकि ऑनलाइन भी एक क्वेश्चन सुना जा रहा है कि पुराने करिकुलम को बिना रिवैम्प किए हम ये सारे सुझाव कैसे लागू कर सकते हैं जिनका डिस्कशन आज हम कर रहे हैं. तो इस प्रश्न का जवाब मैं ये देना चाह रहा हूं कि एनईपी जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है, ऑलरेडी वो कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन के लिए करिकुलम, पेडागोजी और असेसमेंट, इन तीनों रिफॉर्म पर अपना मत दे चुकी है. सीबी के लिए, कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन के लिए एनसीएफएफएस ऑलरेडी आ चुका, यू कैन से रिवैम्प हो चुका और फ्रेश मोड में आ गया. नेक्स्ट एनसीएफ मार्केट में है, ड्राफ्ट आपके सामने है, आपको सजेशंस देने हैं जिससे फाइनलाइज हो सके. एंड फाइनल जो एनसीएफ है विद इन फ्यू मंथ्स आपके सामने होंगे. तो जो एनसीएफ आपके पास तीनों नए आ रहे हैं, उसमें रिवैम्पिंग के साथ साथ बहुत सारे मॉडिफिकेशंस हैं जो पुराने करिकुलम से आगे बढ़ने को लेकर के। तो बिल्कुल सही ये प्रश्न है और रिवैम्पिंग हो रही है, सजेशंस हो रहे हैं और मिडवे में है। नेक्स्ट, ये करिकुलम के साथ साथ आप तब तक सक्सेसफुल नहीं हो सकते जब तक पेडागोजिकल और असेसमेंट रिफॉर्म नहीं करेंगे। एंड पेडागोजिकल रिफॉर्म के लिए अगेन एनईपी ने एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग का एक कॉन्सेप्ट आपके सामने दिया, कैसे आप इंटीग्रेटेड लर्निंग देंगे, किस तरीके से आप जो है सब्जेक्ट, आर्ट, लाइफ, स्पोर्ट्स को इंटीग्रेट करेंगे, किस तरीके से आप डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ असेसमेंट को इन्वॉल्व करेंगे, लाइक पेन पेपर, प्रोजेक्ट, एक्टिविटीज, इंटरनल असेसमेंट्स, इवन 360 डिग्री असेसमेंट, इसकी भी बात आपके सामने है और आप उस चीजों को ऑलमोस्ट स्टार्ट कर चुके हैं। एंड फाइनली असेसमेंट रिफॉर्म, एनईपी इसकी बात करती है, करिकुलम बिना असेसमेंट रिफॉर्म के लागू नहीं हो सकता और जो असेसमेंट रिफॉर्म्स हैं वो भी बहुत फास्ट गति से आपके सामने, वन पेन पेपर में कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस डिफरेंट स्टाइल में आपके सामने मोर देन 40% 10th एंड 12th में रिवैम्प हो चुका है। अदर देन पेन पेपर 20% इंटरनल असेसमेंट या 30% प्रैक्टिकल्स आपके हाथ में, जिसको आप डिफरेंट तरीके से, इनोवेटिव तरीके से अपने अपने स्कूल में इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं। इसके अलावा जो डिस्कशन मॉर्निंग से हो रहा है, प्रोजेक्ट बेस्ड असेसमेंट, एक्टिविटी बेस्ड असेसमेंट, पोर्टफोलियो बेस्ड असेसमेंट, जिसको लगातार आप लागू कर रहे हैं। तो प्रश्न यही है कि पुराने करिकुलम को रिवैम्प करने के लिए इंतजार हमें नहीं करना है। कोई भी प्रोसेस ऐसी नहीं होती कि पुराना शून्य होगा वो फिर नया जीरो से होगा, वो कॉन्टिन्यूएशन में है। तो पुराने करिकुलम का ही नेक्स्ट वर्जन नया करिकुलम है जो मिडवे में है और जिसको आप इंप्लीमेंट ऑलरेडी कर रहे हैं। थैंक यू।
I'll take a next question from that side there.
I'm Sunila Akle from Amity. In the last 2 years, a lot of emphasis has been for curriculum and teaching of the theory subjects. But we also need to look into the practical component. There also we need some tweaking in content, methods of assessment, and especially those subjects where the marks for the practical component is big, is huge. One. Secondly, competitive exams, we have JEE, NID, NIFT, all between that window for the board exams from February to April. So naturally, children are giving more emphasis and time to these competitive exams rather than to the CBSE board exams. So there's a dilution of marks happening even there. Many a times we feel that the 12th class children, the marks that are given in the board, they take in the board exam is not a reflection of their true potential. Because they have given all their time and effort for these competitive exams. And the third question is, sir, skilling and vocational subjects, we welcome it. But all the universities across India are not at parity when they see the report card which has 1 or 2 vocational subjects. Sometimes they include it in the best of 4, sometimes they want to take it in the 5, sometimes they say, no, we will not take it in the scheme of entry procedures. So these this alignment from class 12 to colleges should be uniform all across India. Thank you, sir.
Last question online.
Regarding your point on, this window of competitive exams being the same as that of the boards. So a committee has been constituted in higher education, which will kind of map all these exams so that adequate preparation time is available for all kinds of exams. So we are doing that exercise.
Ma'am, may I ask, give a suggestion in continuation, please?
Yeah.
We had been talking about CUET and how it has taken our children away from schools. But even for the children who are appearing for IIT or NEET exams, we see that the pattern of questioning, asking questions, is very different from what CBSE asks in its exams. And also the syllabus is different. This puts a lot of pressure on children because the pattern of answering is different and the syllabus is different. If this can be looked into, it will be very nice. Thank you.
May
Yes.
I?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
the changes are very good, and I think we all welcome the changes that you have suggested and which have come forth. Congratulations to CBSE. Everybody's talking about it as a dynamic and progressive board across the globe, because we also have IB and IGCSE. The point that I wish to bring forth here is that amidst this turbid change, the turbidness of the changes that come forth, there is a question, burning question for everyone. What do we do with the children who've come into school at a particular age? And this is a question which is across, I think, everybody for admission at the pre-nursery. Do we start pre-nursery now? Do we start it later? So that is a question that I put forth. The second thing is the intervention of state when there is a decision to be made. Haryana faced a lot of problems last year when it was suddenly told to us that we have to do grade 5 and grade 8 examination. We all came together as one, due to which it was nullified or rather postponed. We are not sure which one of the two. So, sir, my request would be that if there is a cohesive decision taken with the states about these exams and not sporadic exams being put on us, because there's a CBSE, we have SAFL, which we did. We were also a pilot school. And there are these states, or at least for Haryana I can speak, which are telling us to do certain examinations. So we would request you, sir and madam, if you could please help in this by helping us with one decision and not have different decisions. Thank you.
I think very valid point. Regarding the age, we have advised all these states that the age for taking admission in class 1 should be 6 years. And many states are on board. And if there are any issues, then we can take it up with them.
So, we finish admission in September for, let's say, 2022, we finish for 2023. So, in Gurgaon. So, for us, it is a problem because we cannot revoke or go back on the admission process which we've done. And now some of us have been told that you have to repeat a child in the same class for 2 years, which is very, very impractical, sir. So we would request you to probe this matter, and no child, because of a decision or a policy change, should be made to repeat a class 2 times. Is something I'm sure everybody agrees upon, and so thank you.
So actually the way we see it is that there may be no class 1 next year because our 5-year-olds are finishing KG. So where do they go, the 5+ this year?
Sir, one thing is there also from in Delhi we are taking from 1st April. This 6 years of age completion on which date basically? Either it is a 1st April, it is a 1st July, what actually it is?
No, the document mentioned 1st July.
And ideally it should be standardized across the country for people who transfer from one state to the other. There's always a problem again.
1st July. The document is
in September, we are doing 30th of September. So either we are given a rule so that everybody across has the same rule. So this was a burning question, and I have been jumping up and down on my chair for a bit, that I think we all are addressing on everybody's behalf. Thank you.
I may add that this is a very common concern. I can sense that from the House. We will take a call on this. You are also aware of the fact that earlier the RTE Act said that from 1 to class in the elementary school there were to be no detention. Then in 2019, the RTE Act has been amended to bring in assessments in class 5 and 8. So that we have circulated to these states. But for the central government, it has been kept in abeyance because meanwhile, the national education policy has come. The national education policy talks about assessment in class 3, class 5, and class 8. So because of this variation between the two, We are waiting for the national curriculum framework to be finalized. Hopefully, in a couple of months' time, we'll be able to give you directions on this very clear.
Thank you, sir. I'm
One-
sure there are so
Please,
many.
last question.
One question, one last question. May I?
I'm sure all of us have so many questions to ask,
This
but
is in continuation with the admission. So if interstate movement happens and the child gets a TC of kindergarten and is not turning 6, do we take him or her in grade 1?
आप सारे लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट है, चूंकि क्वेश्चंस ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन बहुत ज़्यादा हैं और समय की अपनी पाबंदी है, तो आपसे निवेदन है कि मेल आईडी जो हम लोगों ने प्रोवाइड की है, जिस पर आपको गया है, अपने सारे सजेशंस दे देंगे। वो एनसीएफ भी फॉर्मेशन के मोड में है, मिनिस्ट्री को और एनसीएफ जो टीम है हम उसको भी फॉरवर्ड करेंगे। तो आप अपने सारे सजेशंस नोट डाउन करके दे दें, और इसलिए रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं क्योंकि एनसीएफ जो नया है उसमें भी यही कहा जा रहा है कि आप सजेशंस दें।
तो बच्चों को डिनाई कर दें कि दे दें, वो तो हमको पूछ रहे हैं जब तक जवाब आएगा। व्हाट डू वी टेल द पेरेंट्स?
आपका क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो इंटर स्टेट लोग ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं,
हाँ जी,
उनको हम किस तरीके से लें, तो इसका बहुत कुछ जवाब आपके पास भी है। मैं उसका एक उत्तर देता हूँ। आपके सिस्टम में जो बच्चा नर्सरी या केजी या अपर केजी में पर्टिकुलर एज में आ गया, आप 6th में 7th में 8th में रिपीट नहीं करते हैं, आप उसको एडजस्ट करते हैं, ठीक है ना। और ये फर्स्ट टाइम नहीं हो रहा है, ये पहले भी हो रहा था, क्योंकि स्टेट की एज अलग अलग रही है। तो अभी भी आप एडजस्ट करते हैं। और सम टाइम ये क्वेश्चन आपका आता है जब 10th 11th। सर,
I have a very important question.
I may add that
Just one.
education is part of the concurrent list.
Right.
So you have to follow the instructions of the state where your school is situated. See, NCR region also comprises of many states. So there is Rajasthan, there is Haryana, there is Uttar Pradesh, and then there is the united the Delhi state.
सर एक मेरा सजेशन है सर, मैं काफ़ी देर से हाथ उठा रहा, मैं डॉक्टर CB मिश्रा, प्रूडेंस स्कूल अशोक विहार से। सर, आपने अपनी स्पीच में एक बात कही कि 28,000 प्लस स्कूलों के अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा प्राइवेट स्कूल है। सर, इस NEP के अंदर सर, मैं प्राइवेट स्कूल ऐसे सेंट्रल बोर्ड की जब हम बात करते हैं सर, तो हमारी बात होती है सबसे ज़्यादा फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स की। इस फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम में जब हम बात करते हैं अपने फीस स्ट्रक्चर के लिए, तो फीस स्ट्रक्चर के लिए हमारे पास कहीं भी प्रोविजन नहीं होता। स्टेट गवर्नमेंट अपनी पॉलिसी लेती है। हर राज्य में ये प्रॉब्लम आई है सर। कोविड के टाइम पे हर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने अपनी एक पॉलिसी कर दी कि इस टाइम पे कोई भी फीस चार्ज नहीं करेगा। मैं एक आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूँ कि सर एक कम से कम स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के लिए एक आप रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन बनाए, क्योंकि हम CBSE स्कूल्स होते हुए पूरे देश भर के अंदर जो फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम फेस करते हैं, जो 3% का एनुअल इंक्रीमेंट की बात करते हैं या कोई भी फाइनेंशियल, तो उसके लिए कम से कम एक गाइडलाइंस ऐसी बन जाए CBSE के सभी स्कूल्स के लिए जिसको स्टेट गवर्नमेंट फॉलो कर सके। ये मेरी एक हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट है
Sir,
We have taken note of your concern. We shall examine how feasible it is. If it is feasible, then definitely we'll do something.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can I just take one more question?
I will take one question. That is the last question, and it is to be online because online people can't attend it here in physical manner. So the question from online mode is: all criteria of NEP 2020 5+3+3+4 pattern must be discussed before implementation. We need clarity on this.
ओके, मैं इस प्रश्न को रिपीट कर रहा हूं जो ऑनलाइन क्वेश्चन है, और ये अंतिम प्रश्न है आज की इस गैलेक्सी के सामने। इट इज रिक्वेस्टेड, ये लास्ट प्रश्न है जिसका उत्तर हम देने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद हम मूव करेंगे। प्रश्न ये है कि 5+3+3+4 को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के पहले डिटेल डिस्कस किया जाए। इसका उत्तर हम आपसे ये दे रहे हैं कि 5+3+3+4 में दो इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें जो विजिबल हैं। 1, बच्चों के एडमिशन एज 3 ईयर, क्योंकि इसके पहले बहुत सारे स्कूल्स गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में 6 ईयर होती थी और माना गया कि 3 ईयर में लर्निंग स्टार्ट होनी आवश्यक है, जो NEP का पार्ट है। दूसरा, 5+3+3+4 के दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि इसके पहले NCF सिर्फ एक होता था जो 1 to 12 हम लेकर के चलते थे। अब 4 NCF सब पार्ट के रूप में आपके सामने आ रहे हैं। 5 ईयर के लिए डिफरेंट, 3 के लिए डिफरेंट, नेक्स्ट 3, नेक्स्ट 4 के लिए डिफरेंट, क्योंकि अलग अलग एज ग्रुप की लर्निंग लेने देने और समझने का तरीका अलग अलग है। ये दो इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं जो एनईपी और एनसीएफ में आई हैं। इसके अलावा आपके सजेशंस इनवाइटेड हैं, अभी वो ड्राफ्ट स्टेज में है, तो इस पार्ट पर जो भी आप डिस्कशन चाह रहे हैं अपने सजेशंस दें और सजेशन इनकलकेट किए जाएंगे। फाइनली जब फाइनल एनसीएफ होगा वो आपके सामने होगा। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर। कार्यक्रम की समाप्ति से पहले मैं अनुरोध करूंगी सचिव सीबीएसई श्री अनुराग त्रिपाठी जी से कि वो धन्यवाद ज्ञापन प्रस्तुत करें।
थैंक यू प्रज्ञा। अपने तरह का ये अपना पहला और सफल प्रयास है और मैं सबसे पहले बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा सचिव स्कूली शिक्षा को, श्री संजय कुमार सर को, जिन्होंने ये प्रथम संस्करण है और ये सर द्वारा ही इनिशिएट किया गया है। सर ने डिस्कशन के दौरान कहा कि हम बात करना चाहते हैं कंट्री के सारे सीबीएसई स्कूल से कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं और कहाँ आगे बढ़े। तो थैंक यू सर, इसके लिए, इस इनिशिएटिव लेने के लिए, हमको सुनने और समझने की अपॉर्चुनिटी देने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। अपना बहुमूल्य समय निकालने के लिए, हमें मोटिवेट करने के लिए, इनकरेज करने के लिए, गाइड करने के लिए, बहुत सरलता पूर्वक, बड़ी सिंप्लिसिटी के साथ हमारे बीच आप 3 घंटे बैठे रहे, हमारे सारे प्रश्नों को धैर्यपूर्वक सुना और गाइड करने का प्रयास किया। और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आपके इस इन्वॉल्वमेंट से, आपकी इस लीडरशिप से, क्योंकि आप पूरे देश की स्कूली शिक्षा के मुखिया हैं, हेड हैं, तो ये असर सिर्फ सीबीएसई स्कूलों पर ही नहीं जाएगा, पूरे कंट्री के जो 30 करोड़ बच्चे हैं उन तक ये असर जाएगा। तो हम आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देते हैं। और जो आपने अपनी एक छोटी सी स्पीच में कहा कि बच्चों को ऑटोनॉमी मिले, बच्चों को सीखने का अवसर मिले, इंडिपेंडेंट तरीके से वो अपना निर्णय ले सके, उसको रेस्पेक्ट मिले, एक छोटा सा उदाहरण दे करके, एक आइसक्रीम के लिए एक माँ और बेटे के कन्वर्सेशन का उदाहरण दे करके, मुझे लगता है वो मैसेज बहुत गहरे तरीके से हम तक गया है। तो थैंक यू सर, इनवाइट करने के लिए, समय देने के लिए, इनिशिएट करने के लिए और हमें गाइड करने के लिए। हम आपकी जो भी आपके एक्सपेक्टेशंस है उस पर खरे उतरेंगे। थैंक यू सर। मैं विशेष धन्यवाद दूंगा चेयरपर्सन सीबीएसई श्रीमती निधि चेब्बर मैम का, पिछले 1 वर्ष से ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को लीड कर रही हैं, फ्रंट से लीड कर रही हैं।
1 मिनट, we must congratulate her. She completes 1 year today.
फर्स्ट जून 22 को चेयरपर्सन सीबीएसई के रूप में मैम ने ज्वाइन किया था। आज ये पूरा वर्ष पूरा हुआ है और इससे अच्छी चीज और क्या हो सकती है कि शिक्षा विभाग के मुखिया और सीबीएसई के मुखिया एक साथ मंच पर एक अच्छे कॉज के लिए आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। असेसमेंट रिफॉर्म को लगातार चेयरपर्सन सीबीएसई ना सिर्फ रिव्यू कर रही हैं, लागू करने का प्रयास कर रही हैं। एफिलिएशन रिफॉर्म्स बहुत माइन्यूटली देखते हुए उसको रिवैम्प करने का प्रयास कर रही हैं। बहुत सारे जो चेंजेस हैं एनईपी में, चाहे वो सफल हो, स्क्वा हो, आपका एचपीसी हो, सीबीई हो, डिफरेंट असेसमेंट के जो रिफॉर्म्स हो उनको आपके स्कूल किस तरीके से इंप्लीमेंट कर सके, टीचर्स को कैसे अपग्रेड किया जा सके, ट्रेंड किया जा सके, इंटायर ट्रेनिंग सिस्टम कैसे रिवैम्प किया जाए, इस पर लगातार प्रयास चेयरपर्सन सीबीएसई का। थैंक यू मैम। और विशेष धन्यवाद आज की ये पूरी जो हमारी जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हुआ है, जो ये कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई है, उसको शेप देने के लिए, उसको सुपरवाइज करने के लिए, उस पर अपना इनपुट देने के लिए और आज इसको सफलतापूर्वक संचालित कराने के लिए, हमको ऑटोनॉमी देने के लिए कि हम इसको सक्सेसफुली कर सकें। विशेष धन्यवाद। थैंक यू मैम। मैं थैंक यू बोलूंगा चैंगसेन मैम का, एडिशनल सेक्रेटरी का, जिन्होंने एक डिटेल प्रेजेंटेशन आप सबके सामने दिया और मुझे लगता है कि उससे बेहतर प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं हो सकता। और रेस्पेक्टेड सेक्रेटरी सर भी मंच पर उसी चीज की प्रशंसा कर रहे थे और बहुत विशद तरीके से मैम ने एनईपी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, पेडागोजी, असेसमेंट, एवरीथिंग टच करने का प्रयास किया। सफल, स्क्वा, एचपीसी जो इनिशिएटिव्स हैं उनको भी टच करने का प्रयास किया। और आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन से कंट्री के जो 20,000 स्कूल, 28,000 स्कूल जो ऑनलाइन मोड में ज्वाइन किए हुए हैं, उन तक ये बात जा रही है, गंभीरता से जा रही है। इस पर वो मनन करेंगे, विचार करेंगे, कस्टमाइज करेंगे और अपने अपने तरीकों से इस सक्सेस को लीड करने का प्रयास करेंगे। थैंक यू चैंगसन मैम समय देने के लिए और एक अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन, एक अच्छी टॉक हम सब तक पहुंचाने के लिए। मैं विशेष धन्यवाद दूंगा अर्चना अवस्थी मैम का। मैम G20 पर मैम ने अपना एक बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन दिया और G20 एक ऐसी इवेंट है जो आपके देश को पूरी दुनिया में बहुत हाई लेवल पे लेके जा रही है। पूरी दुनिया देख रही है कि आप आर्थिक, सामाजिक, सांस्कृतिक, शैक्षिक क्षेत्र में कहाँ बढ़ रहे हैं और उनमें से जो शिक्षा का क्षेत्र है उस पर किस तरह से इंपॉर्टेंट 4 कॉन्फ्रेंसेज में हम अपने एजुकेशन को रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहे हैं, दिखा रहे हैं पूरी दुनिया को। वो तो महत्वपूर्ण है ही, उससे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण यह है कि G20 के कारण जो नए इनिशिएटिव्स हैं वो देश में लागू हो रहे हैं। तो हम दुनिया को भी दिखा रहे हैं और अपने विद्यालयों को भी कि हम किस तरीके से G20 की इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को ले सकें। थैंक यू अर्चना अवस्थी मैम, उसको हमारे सामने लाने के लिए, हमें एक बार मेरा इमेज दिखाने के लिए, और हम आपके जो भी आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशन है हमारे स्कूल उस पर खरे उतरेंगे। मैं विशेष धन्यवाद दूंगा प्राची मैम का। रात में ही लौट करके आई हैं, मुझे नहीं मालूम है कितना समय मिला है आपको रेस्ट करने के लिए, लेकिन समय पर आप हमारे यहाँ आई, हमारे प्रश्नों का जवाब दिया, विशेष प्रश्नों का जवाब दिया। बहुत कम समय हुआ है मैम को ज्वाइन किए हुए, लेकिन जिस तरीके से आपने चीजों को टच किया, आंसर किया और हमें गाइड कर रही हैं, आप इंस्टीट्यूशन जो हमारी बॉडी है, जो मंत्रालय में, उसको हेड भी कर रही हैं। तो थैंक यू प्राची मैम, टाइम देने के लिए और प्रश्नों का जवाब देने के लिए, हम सबसे इंटरेक्ट करने के लिए। हमारे बीच उपस्थित हैं हमारे ज्वाइंट सेक्रेटरी विपिन कुमार सर, और सेक्शन 12 के प्रश्नों के साथ आपके सामने सर थे। और कितनी अच्छी बात है कि जो मूल चिंता थी शिक्षा विभाग की, आप सबने दूर करने का प्रयास किया कि आपके बच्चे 8वीं के बाद निकाले नहीं जा रहे हैं सिर्फ इसलिए कि फीस नहीं दे सकते, क्योंकि माना जाता है कि RT 1 to 8 तक है। तो कंट्री के में भी बहुत सारे स्कूल हो जो 9 to 12 इन बच्चों को फीस ना देने के कारण आउट कर दे रहे हैं। ये बड़ा प्रोफेशनल अप्रोच है, बट हमारे मैक्सिमम स्कूल उन बच्चों को रिटेन कर रहे हैं, विदाउट हायर फीस स्ट्रक्चर रिटेन कर रहे हैं, मैनेजमेंट उनको हेल्प कर रहा है, सपोर्ट कर रहा है, सोशल कॉर्पोरेट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फंड से आप उनको कर रहे हैं। और सिर्फ पढ़ाई नहीं रहे, बहुत सारे हमारे स्कूल हैं जो बच्चों को एक्सकर्शन ट्रिप्स में, बाहर जो एक्टिविटीज है उनमें जिसमें पैसे खर्च होते हैं, वो भी आपके स्कूल और मैनेजमेंट उसको डाइवर्ट करके इन बच्चों को फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट वो देने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। तो थैंक यू विपिन सर, इस सेक्शन को हम सबके लाने के लिए, और इसी बहाने पूरे देश के जो 28,000 स्कूल जुड़े हुए हैं उनको भी एक मैसेज जाता है कि RT को ट्रू टर्म में किस तरीके से वो इम्प्लीमेंट करें। थैंक यू अमरप्रीत मैम, थैंक यू हेगड़े सर, थैंक यू सृजा मैम, हमको सपोर्ट करने के लिए, ज्वाइन करने के लिए, क्योंकि आपका आना बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। जब पूरा मंत्रालय हमारे बीच, हमारे साथ है, CBSE के साथ है, तो हमारी ताकत बढ़ती है और हम एक कदम और आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित होते हैं। CBSE के हमारे सारे कलीग, हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट्स, ऑफिसर्स उपस्थित हैं। पूरे वर्ष भर आप मेहनत करके एक अच्छा रिजल्ट देते हैं, और वो रिजल्ट जब निकलता है तो देश में एक नई तरह की चर्चा शुरू होती है। एक ब्रांड बन चुका है CBSE लास्ट 90 ईयर में। हम जो इनिशिएट करते हैं पूरा देश उसको फॉलो करता है, और अब हम बढ़ रहे हैं किस तरीके से हम इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड को रीच कर सकें। तो थैंक यू ऑल HODs, ऑल CBSE के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स, आपकी मेहनत के लिए और इस बोर्ड को यहां तक पहुंचाने के लिए। हमारे बीच आज ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन मोड में बहुत सारे स्कूल प्रिंसिपल्स, टीचर्स, स्कूल मैनेजमेंट, स्कूल ओनर्स, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव जुड़े हुए हैं। आज हमारे सामने जो उपस्थित हैं, जो सुबह से समय निकाल करके, क्योंकि सिर्फ दिल्ली के लोग नहीं है, लोग मेरठ से भी आए हैं, लोग आगरा से भी आए हैं, लोग फरीदाबाद से भी आए हैं, लोग रेवाड़ी से भी आए हैं। तो थैंक यू यहाँ आने के लिए, सपोर्ट करने के लिए, क्योंकि जब ये चर्चा होती है तो चर्चा में से बहुत सारे आउटकम निकल के जाते हैं। जैसे NEP का आउटकम है कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये वर्कशॉप भी कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड रही है, और कुछ ना कुछ कॉम्पिटेंसी, कुछ ना कुछ आउटकम आप लेकर के जा रहे हैं, जो अपने अपने स्कूल्स में और अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में आप इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे। तो ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन मोड में ज्वाइन करने वाले ऑल प्रिंसिपल्स को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, थैंक यू। इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने में CBSE के मेंटेनेंस यूनिट का, CBSE का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव यूनिट का, CBSE से जुड़े हुए सपोर्टिंग डिपार्टमेंट्स का योगदान रहा है। इसको सफल बनाने में जो हॉल हमें अवेलेबल कराया गया है, इसमें जो PA सिस्टम है, इसमें जो एड्रेस सिस्टम है, जो हमारी YouTube लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग की टीम है, उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है। तो जितने भी लोग जिनका हम नाम नहीं ले पा रहे हैं उनको भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। एक बार फिर रिस्पेक्टेड सेक्रेटरी सर को इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को लीड करने के लिए और एक हायर लेवल तक ले जाने के लिए, और इंटायर टीम को थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट। एक छोटी सी सूचना आप सबको, चूंकि आज इस मीटिंग हॉल में, इस बिल्डिंग में बहुत सारी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस चल रही हैं, तो नीचे का जो एरिया था लंच के लिए हमें नहीं मिल सका, क्योंकि वहां मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्बन डेवलपमेंट ने पहले ही बुक कराया था। तो हमने 2 प्लेसेस पे लंच रखा है। एक इसी बिल्डिंग से सटी हुई जो एनेक्सी बिल्डिंग है, वहां पर हमने रखा हुआ। ऑल प्रिंसिपल्स से हम रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि वो एनेक्सी बिल्डिंग पर लंच के लिए मूव करेंगे। नीचे ग्राउंड फ्लोर के बाद हमारी पूरी टीम है, आपको गाइड करेगी, बिना लंच लिए आप नहीं जाएंगे, आपके लिए हमने व्यवस्था करके रखी है। और जो हमारे मिनिस्ट्री के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं, सीबीएसई ऑफिशियल्स हैं, जो हेड्स हैं, जो हमारे अलग अलग डिफरेंट ऑटोनोमस बॉडीज के लोग हैं, उनके लिए हमने इस बिल्डिंग का फायर एरिया थोड़ा सा छोटा है, हम क्षमा चाहेंगे उसके लिए, वहां आप आमंत्रित हैं। विद दीज 2 प्लेसेज हम मैनेज करने का प्रयास करेंगे कि आप अच्छे तरीके से लंच करके अपने घर जा सके। थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट। जगह छोटी है,